Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We'll be sitting as all special taxing districts. This is the August the first the month meeting. It's 9 a.m. Board members can attend either by in person or by telephone or remotely. Obviously, everybody's here, so I'm calling this meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Supervisor Lyons to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As you can probably tell, I didn't get the memo to wear orange, but other than that, we're pretty much coordinated this time. All right, we'll begin the meeting by having a call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion in a decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comment will be accepted until 8 a.m. in the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read aloud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, is there any letters?
Yes.
Right, so could you please read them for the...
I have two emails. The first is from Gary Adders, stating that he is against raising property taxes again for the Hospital District Board. And the second is from Deborah Adders, saying, I am against allowing the hospital district to apply a tax increase to my property, and I still cannot understand how we got taxed the first time without a vote.
Right, well, we'll take those comments and put them on the record. If it's not in the item, we can't discuss them anyway, but I'm sure that we'll have somebody formally respond to those comments in some manner. You know, that's one of the toughest things as a county supervisor, that we don't get to set those tax rates. They're set by the different entities. We just get to accept them and put them on the record. So, you know, I recommend if anybody has any problems with any of their taxing districts, to contact their taxing districts to figure out why they set them at what they set them. We do set some tax rates, but we don't set tax rates for every district. So please, if you have something to comment, or before the tax rates get to us, you need to get to your taxing entity and make sure they know your feelings about it. All right, I'm going to leave open to the public, open throughout the meeting, and just to give people an opportunity, anyone that hasn't had the time or didn't get here in time. I know it's pretty difficult to do that Monday morning, so I'm leaving the open to the public section open throughout the whole meeting in case someone shows up and still wants to address the board in some way. Anyone here that wants to address the board in an item that is not in the agenda? If not, I'm going to move on to presentation, proclamations, and appointments. During this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. Again, no legal action will be taken. Individual members can appoint anyone, or whomever they choose to, their appointees to the Board of Adjustment or Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there any appointments, or are there any appointments to be made this morning? That will move on then to our first presentation. It is the presentation of the 2022 Legislative Report by Craig Sullivan, Executive Director of the County Supervisors Association of Arizona. Mr. Sullivan, let me tell you, you need to have a recount. Why weren't you choosing the best, why wasn't the CSA chosen as the best? I read the Capital Times, and the best of the Capital.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to work on, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I guess we'll have to submit ourselves next time. First of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. For the record, I'm Craig Sullivan with the County Supervisors Association, and I have with me Vanessa Fielder. We wanted to be here today to give you a report out on the association and some of the work that we've done over the last year and some of the activities that specifically touched county operations that occurred this last legislative session. But to begin with, I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, for your involvement in the association. We are very grateful to have you all at the table, the collaboration of the 15 counties. make sure that your voice is heard. And I know that personally, I'm grateful because having your perspective and your relationships with your lawmakers makes the whole collaboration between counties and the legislature that much more effective. So thank you for that. And I want to extend that appreciation too to your team. Your professional staff, Ian and Alejandro and everybody is outstanding in making sure that we have information that is UMA relevant in the work that we do. And so please accept our appreciation for your partnership. I did give you the PowerPoint that we're going to go over here today, and I'll share with you, I'm not going to go over everything in detail, but I wanted to give you some specifics about who we are and some of the work we were doing this last legislative session and some of the bills that will be on file when bills are finally enacted. Please know that we do have a legislative summary that will be coming out that will be very detailed and available to your professional staff to adopt all of the recently passed bills when the enactment date comes up. So to begin with, I think I'd like to just share a little bit about who we are. Not everybody in the audience may know, but the County Supervisors Association is a collaboration of the 15 counties and their supervisors in particular. And what we focus on is creating a forum for sharing information, developing research and information to improve decision making, and then serving as an intergovernmental office for the counties and state government and the federal government. And that intergovernmental piece becomes particularly important because there are so many external authorities that can impact county operations. And you know that well, but our team based in Phoenix works with these folks to try to bring county information to their decision making, as well as bringing back what they're doing to all of you. In terms of our leadership, all 61 supervisors in the state serve on our board of directors, and we're grateful for that inclusive nature of our governance structure. We do have an executive committee of 6 members. Supervisor Pancrazzi, thank you for serving on that executive committee elected by your colleagues. I know it's extra duty, but I'm grateful for your voice there. And similarly, thank you for participating in our regular legislative policy committee calls and making sure that we're hearing the voice of Yuma County. And Supervisor Lyons, thank you too for stepping up to be on our legislative policy committee calls as well. Having your voice is very important to us, and I think it really helps us take a bipartisan communication to the legislature, because that's definitely how we operate. I mentioned at the outset that we create a forum and for supervisors to talk about issues. So I wanted to give you a sense of the speakers, the elected officials, and agency heads that came through our organization and visited with all of you over the course year, and some of the specific roundtable topics that we engaged in. And they won't surprise you. They're all issues that you're dealing with: employee compensation, pension issues, court funding, ARPA allocations, and the like. And of course, with the emergence or the ongoing drought issues, water. We talk a lot about water issues, and nobody knows those better than this county. We meet regularly with what we call affiliate organizations. This is our professional staff network of managers and administrators, finance directors, planners and engineers and others who make sure that we're getting good information into our organization there as well. And I'll tell you, that's something that I know Vanessa and I really enjoy, because that's really where we hear how the rubber hits the road in terms of program implementation across the counties and how folks are getting creative to solve local governance and implementation issues. I mentioned information development, so I wanted to flag a couple of things for you. And this is the area that Ms. Fielder really heads up for us, and this is developing a very robust database that allows us to inform decision making. And this is just a sample of some of the county comparisons that we have available on our website under the County Encyclopedia, where you can look at tax rate, comps, and other items across counties to see how Yuma compares or what things look like in other counties. We also track various cost drivers, things like the healthcare system, expenditure limit changes, pension debt, and things like that. So there is a wealth of information here, and you all see the results of this data collection effort in a lot of the reports we put together in front of you at our board meetings. So I want to talk a little bit about the session in particular, and as you know, very few stakeholders of government have more legislative touch points than counties. It's because counties are administrative arms of state government, and so we have a wide diversity of items that our team has to work through. I mentioned the legislative summary that will come out. That will provide summaries of bills that will be effective on September 24th. Obviously, this year, the general effective date of new laws is later. That's because the legislature went later than it typically does, as you well know. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the collaboration that your legislative delegation has on the myriad bills that we engage. The members that come out of this area, Senator Kerr, Senator Ortondo, Representative John, Representative Fernandez, Representative Dunn, Representative Osborne, those folks are fantastic representatives, and it's because of the relationship you all have. And I just want to acknowledge them because they meet with us regularly to work through the many bills that touch county operations. And I'm very, very grateful for the relationship that you all forge. Now, when we briefed you on coming into the legislative context back in, well, before January, these are some of the big items that we saw coming in, and these all played out, right? We knew that there was going to be a lot of money on the table, and that created the opportunity for investing in education and infrastructure and water supply development and other things that were a priority at the state capitol. We also knew that the state had very thin Republican majorities. And as you know, generally speaking, the majority party tries to do major policy and its budget within the majority party. But when you don't have a vote to give in either caucus in the House or the Senate, it necessarily led to a need to have a broader collaboration across members of both parties. And that's ultimately what we saw come out, where this budget in the main was a bipartisan budget. So let's talk first about that budget. And this lists for you some of the key data points. There was an additional tax cut that was put in this budget. What it was the elimination of the last remaining state property tax rate. And so that'll total up into just over $300 million. We did see a lot of spending in this budget over the next few years. About $5.4 billion of one-time money is being invested in from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 25. And in terms of new spending in government, we'll see about $1.6 billion of new state spending ongoing. If you look at the chart that I've got down for you here, the two lines to look at are the ending balance and structural balance. And if you take the ending balance out to fiscal year 2025, what do you see? You see a projected ending balance of about $26 million, all right, in a $15 billion budget. So that essentially means that they spent all the resources that were on the table. Now, that's not as grave as it looks because they do have a $1.4 billion rainy day fund. So that's a great thing. So if recession does impact, they do have a little bit of a cushion. But they definitely prioritized getting dollars out the door for one-time infrastructure projects as well as some ongoing spending. This is how it breaks down for you in terms of major categories. It won't surprise you that education was the most significantly invested in function of state government. Health and welfare, that's things like the state's long-term care system and access. Debt reduction ranked very high. What is that? That's the state paying down its liability on pension debt in the main. And so that was a very good investment on their part. And you can see how the various items work their way down from there. Transportation is a huge deal. They put another $1 billion into one-time transportation projects. This region has been represented well in these transportation budgets in recent years. It did provide an inflation adjustment for the I-95 work that's going on, as well as $33 million for Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And so that, I know that was an important investment coming down to this community. I want to talk a little bit about some of the items that CSA worked on, give you a sense of how those played out. We are still working on, for the larger counties, a mandated payment to the State Department of Juvenile Corrections. Your county and the other rural counties do not make that payment because your lawmakers stepped up and helped us eliminate that. We as an association continue to work on that for Maricopa and Pima. We were able to secure a grant program for juvenile dependency support of about $2 million and maintain the flexibility language that we get in the state budget for how you're able to manage some of your siloed resources. Some challenges we had were that the state has not resolved the probation issue. The probation issue, as you know, probation officers are state funded. You are delegated the responsibility of giving raises when appropriate to probation officers, and then the state would backfill that money. There's some real tension going on with the state as regards to that, and they put policy in the budget that would have the county absorbing any probation officer raises over 2.5%. And so we know that's created an additional cost shift point, and probation needs to be resourced correctly. And so we are working with the courts and others, and we're going to have to come up with a long-term strategy. This is the second year that they've put that policy in the budget. We also, late in the session, put on the table something we call state mandate relief. And what we saw was there were some other cost drivers in the budget that I'll explain to you in a moment that are legitimate policy choices by the state. But with those rolling on, we thought, why don't we ask the legislature to eliminate old legacy mandates? So we put these items on the table, 2 old healthcare mandates, and then restoring a cost share for the JPs. We were able to get the JP cost share adjusted, so that saves the counties about $1.4 million. But given that we brought our items late to the table, we weren't able to get the other 2 items, but we were able to elevate awareness. And I want to thank this county for helping me in that education effort, and this may be something we go at in the future. These are just items that were put in the budget 20 years ago, and they're still there costing your taxpayers, while other things start to drive up your costs. So I want to do 2 slides on those. This shows the trajectory of the state's long-term care system. Counties pay a portion of the state match to pull down federal resources to fund this program. These are indigent folks and disabled folks who are in long-term care. They made provider rate increases at the state level, and the county share will increase. The county share for Yuma is about $1.2 million. You can see that for a period, if you look at the copper line, for a period, this cost was flat, but it's really started to spike up. And a lot of that is demand in the system as demographics change, but also workforce issues are impacting the provider community significantly. And so we're going to see continued upward pressure there, and it does impact your tax base as well. The legislature also gave judges' salaries. The counties pay 50% of Superior Court judge salaries. So over the next 2 years, they're phasing up an increase in judges' salaries, and that'll cost Yuma County about $300,000. Again, these are legitimate policy items that when we saw they were going to do, we thought that's fine. We're not going to oppose these, but we'd like relief on other mandates. You can see why the justification was there. Mm-hmm. And also DOR is going to upgrade its tax system. Obviously, they collect TPT taxes that we benefit on. And what they're doing is they're billing all the local jurisdictions. So Yuma County will pay about $31,000 annually for that.
They're going to get an updated computer system, hopefully?
I think it's updating all the technology, Supervisor, and trying to make it a more efficient and transparent system. Hopefully it'll work. Now, these are some boxes of appropriations I wanted to flag for you. The legislature did provide resources for counties in support of some of their priorities. And so this shows you that. On the left, you see where appropriations came down for a sheriff's stipend. This is something that the sheriffs took forward, as well as diversion resources for the rural county attorneys. We also see a substantial number of dollars that are put out for border-related items that I know the sheriffs are trying to figure out how to access. And the state also put out $10 million for cybersecurity grants, so things that we can access to try to improve our cybersecurity profile at the local level. They also put a lot of resources into election-related appropriations, and I know the recorders and election officials are looking at how to navigate those, some of which are related to cleaning up voter registration in the larger counties. Larger is now defined as over 200,000. And then providing some resources for secure ballot boxes. There is in this secure ballot box appropriation, there are 3 counties that are allocated some of those resources. Yuma's one of them. I think Cochise and Pinal are the other two. We took into the process 6 bills, and 5 of them were viable, and we got 4 of them through. But you can just get a sense of what we worked on here. This is where our counties bring items to us. And we looked at special districts and how we deal with efficiencies in the medical examiner function and things like that. Where most of our work is on the reactive advocacy side. And Robin Hilliard's not here today, but as you know, she and Jacob Emmett on our team work mightily reviewing all the bills that come in the process and working with you all to figure out how to engage them. This gives you a sense of the diversity of policy areas that our team works on. And just kind of as an operational lens, our desire is usually to fix things if we can. We know that lawmakers are putting forward things that they think solve problems. We just look at bills through the lens of local resources, local flexibility, and whether they actually make things better from a constituent service standpoint in our view. And so I'd like to cover a couple of the big themes that came out this year, and some of them will not surprise you. Elections was a major conversation that occurred. 140 bills related to elections were in the process. Obviously not that many came out, but several did, and those are now on track to be implemented. Probably the 2 biggest things that I just flag is we will see on the ballot in November asking the voters to change voter ID requirements on mail-in ballots, so that'll be something that's before all of us. And we did see some process changes in what triggers recounts in elections. And so these are all important for the counties to be reviewing as they implement new laws going forward. The COVID situation was still in play as a political matter. Many of these bills were in the budget a year ago, but you may recall that several of their budget bills were ruled unconstitutional because they weren't constructed right. So a lot of those items came back. And what those do is they touch local county emergency authority, state emergency authority, and then restrict local jurisdictions as it relates to vaccines, as well as to mask mandates. So all stuff we've talked about before. In terms of select bills, this gives you a little bit of flavor of where our team was spending some time on working on contracting mechanisms for contracts that go out to vendors. Fireworks seems to come back every year and is something we wrestle over. There was progress on vacation rentals. The league and the counties worked very closely on that. And of course, you're familiar with the great work that was done on water infrastructure. And Ms. Kerr was a key champion and leader in that space. The last policy area I wanted to flag for you is tax policy, because counties just historically have been given as a primary authority property tax to fund state mandates, right? We have a very limited sales tax. We don't have flexible revenues. With those costs that I showed you earlier that are going up, the primary way to fund that that's available to you is the property tax. You know that well. What you see on the left are some policy changes that are going to put pressure on the local property tax rate. And they'll do that because we're changing the mix of how businesses are assessed relative to homeowners. The legislature, by design, is bringing the assessment ratio for businesses gradually down to 15%, and business homes, as you know, are 10%. And so your relative mix is shifting. They're also starting to accelerate, or continuing to accelerate, depreciation of personal property. Why do we care? Because as you start to erode that base and new cost drivers come on, you all are the ones that have to figure out whether you're going to have to raise your rate to fund those things. And we know that can be a difficult decision. I also wanted to flag the pension work. Vanessa spearheads a lot of our work along with Brandon Nee on pension work. We spend a ton of time on it. Our primary mission right now is to not undo the reforms and the good work that has been done to get these pension systems in a better financial footing. And as you might imagine, as counties like this one that has gotten control of its PSPRS debt, and I know Ms. Pancrazzi, you were a leader in that, now legislators are starting to say, well, now that the systems are better funded, maybe we ought to look at the benefits side. And we really think that that's a very risky proposition, and we shouldn't be doing that cavalierly. I mentioned earlier that there'll be one voter identification issue that's before the ballot. These are some other items that will be on the ballot. The question before the voters about Lieutenant Governor will be back, as well as the fire districts were successful at getting a statewide sales tax to fund fire districts. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of that. That'll be on the ballot in November. For our work, we are getting ready for the next session. As soon as one ends, we start getting ready for the next one. If this county has policy items that it would like for us to consider, please let us know of those by August 15th. That'll get it in our process, and I know Alejandro talks with our team regularly. And then we'll look forward to convening all of you in October with your colleagues down in Tucson to get organized for this next legislative session. And I know we've got a lot of work to do. There'll be a lot of changes going into this next one. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for all the time. I do appreciate you letting me go through a lot of this. But I want to thank you again for your partnership with the association, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions or comments from the board.
First of all, thank you for the update. We certainly try to follow as much as possible, but obviously we have other things that sometimes keeps us busy. So it's always good to sort of get a recap and a summary. We don't know how much damage has been done until the end. Sometimes it is good. Sometimes it is sort of good, and sometimes it is just typically bad. But you know, I think that the fact that you basically come up here and give us a report and acknowledges that we're just an arm of the state, and the state legislature keeps making that, you know, that job that we have of trying to balance a budget difficult by taking tools away from us and then having us face the constituents when we have to, you know, come up with the funds to do whatever they set out we need to do. It's good to hear it from someone else. It's normally something that we say during the period of time that we're trying to set the tax rates, that it isn't that easy, that it's very difficult. And we all have to just simply admit that this last 2 or 3 years haven't been normal in most respects. The pandemic did good and did bad. Mostly in some ways good, but in budgetary terms, but they're not the usual normal funding that we deal with, and it's very difficult to try to stay true to that conservative economic outlook that we normally are very good at following. But anyway, thank you very much. Do you have any questions, guys? Good, thorough. I do want to thank you for your efforts. I know that a lot of these things don't happen because it just happened. They happen because someone is keeping an eye on them and guiding them through. So we appreciate all the effort that it's done behind the actual curtain that I know makes some of these things work. So thank you very much. You've been around for some time now, and
Thank you, Greg.
we're starting to show it a little bit, but
Yeah,
let's not dwell on that.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you all. Thank you very
Still
much.
has hair.
Yeah, so some of us who have hair can show the aging pattern. But anyway, though, thank you very much again, and we will move on to the next item in our agenda of proclamations and appointments, and we'll have and you may, if you want to take the drive back to Phoenix, you don't have to stay for the boring part of the meeting, but thank you. All right, so we'll go to the number 2 item, which is presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
Are you planning to vote in person? We take you through the steps of voting the electronic ballot machine. Yuma County offers medical services that you may not be aware of. And our vector control specialists have tips to fight the bite against mosquitoes. These stories and more, this is your County Line. We've been profiling different parts of the election process as we get closer to the August 2nd primary election. Today, we look at the county's electronic ballot marking device, ExpressVote. If you haven't been to a polling place or vote center in recent years, you may notice one big change. Voting is predominantly through a voting machine. Long gone are the days of filling in a bubble or using a punch card machine. In today's election climate, Yuma County uses the Express Vote universal voting system.
Express Vote ballot marking device is really beneficial for voters for a couple of reasons. One is it will not allow errors on the ballot. So you don't have to worry about a bubble not being filled in enough or an errant mark. It also won't allow overvotes for races, which ensures that voters' choices will be counted properly and won't be rejected by the tabulator.
The system has security features as well. The verifiable paper record, audit logs kept, data encryption are just a few of the fail-safes in place to protect the voting records through the process. The primary election is on Tuesday, August 2nd, and registered voters in Yuma County can go to any of the 8 vote center locations from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. to cast their ballot. For vote center locations, visit yumacountyaz.gov/voter and election services. Coming off the heels of National Pretrial, Probation, and Parole Supervision Week, we'd like to share some services that the county offers that you might not have been aware of. 4 years ago, the county formed a partnership with several agencies to provide better accessibility to health care for Yuma County citizens on probation. Out of that partnership came the North End Community Connections Clinic.
Now, being our sister clinic, we have everything in our disposition. Every single day, we conduct what we call the warm handoff, where we bring individuals the same day that they're sentenced, or individuals that are on probation that possibly struggling with any needs that we can also bring for treatment services.
With health care in the same building they visit for probation, their chances of success are greatly improved. The North End Community Connections Clinic has extended the benefits to the public due to the success of this service for probationers. For more information on North End Community Connections and the services they provide, call 928-304-7729 or visit their downtown location located at 410 South Maiden Lane. Many may worry about the diseases carried by mosquitoes, but worry not, our vector control specialists know what to do. Get out and confront the mosquito population. Yuma County vector control specialists have been battling viruses for many years, particularly in the springtime. They're at work before most of us even hear the alarm clock. They're responsible for killing millions of mosquitoes that could spread certain diseases, including Zika and West Nile. These health district professionals have some very simple steps that you can take to help protect yourself and your family.
You can actually be your own hero and go in and around your house looking for anything that holds water. Even the smallest child's toy you think may not be a breeding site for mosquitoes can be. You know, the sprinklers come on, fill it full of water. That mosquito thinks, hey, perfect place to lay my eggs, lays their eggs. Those eggs then dry out. The next time your sprinklers come on, re-wets that egg, and then we've got mosquitoes breeding again.
It's easy to protect yourself when you go out, particularly in the early morning and at dusk. Use repellent containing DEET and wear lightweight clothing that covers the arms and legs.
Hi, I'm Mary, and this is your Health Watch. World Breastfeeding Month is celebrated around the world during the month of August. This year, we focus on the important role breastfeeding plays in the survival, health, and well-being for all, and the importance of protecting breastfeeding worldwide. The idea of building back better after the COVID-19 pandemic will provide a chance to create a warm chain of support for breastfeeding that includes healthcare systems, workplaces, and communities at all levels of society. World Breastfeeding Month aims to raise awareness of the health and well-being outcomes of breastfeeding and the importance of supporting mothers to breastfeed for as long as they wish. WIC is here to be a part of that warm chain of support. For more information about WIC and breastfeeding, please contact us at 928-317-4500. Step up for breastfeeding, educate and support. This is your Health Watch. Stay healthy, Yuma.
Before we head out, we'd like to send a shout out to the Yuma County Library District and our Yuma County Juvenile Probation Department for awards received. The Yuma County Library District recently received recognition at the National Association of Counties annual conference. The library was responsible for developing the Smart Start Kit program to to offer children and their caregivers early literacy through take-home interactive activities. Also, the Yuma County Juvenile Probation Department was awarded for Outstanding Prevention Effort at the Arizona HIDTA Awards. Team leaders met weekly over 2 months to include fentanyl awareness, naloxone information, and the Good Samaritan Law details in 14 different programs that reach parents, caregivers, youth and probation department, and supporting agencies. Congratulations to both on their awards received. Thank you for joining us for this County Line. We'd like to know of any story ideas you may have. And if you're looking for stories we've covered in the past, log on to the website at yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. We'll see you on the next County Line.
Well, just don't forget to vote. That is the critical thing tomorrow. So if you haven't voted yet, get to it. All right, we'll move on now to the consent calendar. The consent calendar, where the following items are listed under the consent agenda, and they will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Are there any items to be removed? I'd like to remove 5, 6, and 7.
Okay.
Just to talk about it a little bit. Are there any other items? Then I'll request the motion to go ahead and approve the consent calendar excluding 5, 6, and 7. Is there a second? There's been motion and second to approve the consent calendar as presented. So it will be the approval of items 1 through, I think it's 9, with the exception of 5, 6, and 7. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Item 5 and 6, I'll open them together. Both of them deal with, one is to authorize the district director. In this case, it would be Diana Gomez, I think, wouldn't it? District director, to execute and implement the Arizona Companion Animal Spay-Neuter Grant Award for domestic animals between the Arizona Companion Animal Spay-Neuter Committee and the Yuma County Public Health Service District. And the sixth one, it's also a Public Health Services District, and it would be to authorize the director to execute and implement the Arizona Companion Animal Spay-Neuter Grant Award for community cats between the Arizona Companion Animal Spay-Neuter Committee and the Yuma County Public Health Services District. The reason I asked for this item to be highlighted is because we need to highlight that service. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that most people do not realize. And I'd like to just have you guys explain what that program is and why it's important that people in unincorporated areas know about them. Most people think that getting rid of cats or getting rid of some of those domestic animals means just getting rid of them. And sometimes that doesn't solve the problem, as you probably well know. So the spay and neuter process is something that I thought for years would be a better solution than any of the ones that we currently have. So could you expand a little bit on it?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Diana Gomez, Director of Public Health. I am here with Annette Lagunas, who's the Executive Director for the Humane Society. And these two items relate to a grant program that's available that we've had the privilege to be able to partner with the Humane Society. And I will defer to Annette to discuss more in detail what this program entails.
Thank you, Chairman and Board. I am also the chairman for the Arizona State Governor's License Plate Committee. So all of the funds from this grant come from the pet plates that you see around town, the little, I think it's a blue and purple little dog on the back. So $17 of every one of those plates sold within the state of Arizona all goes back to counties all over the state. So each year we're able to grant out about $200,000. It keeps going up each year because there is also now a tax checkbox that people can donate towards this campaign specifically. So when we meet as part of the board for the governor, we're able to allocate all that money out. And I always make sure, of course, that Yuma is on that list. And thankfully with public health applying for this grant, we're able to get that money into the unincorporated areas. So for cats, as you mentioned, there is no cost for people to bring in community cats to have them spayed and neutered. Their ears are tipped and then they are vaccinated. So we're learning that though it may not always feel like it, that is slowing the production of cats and community cats that we are seeing out in the community. So the same goes with spay neuter of dogs and cats. Our shelter is overflowing right now. We are seeing pre-COVID numbers almost worse than we were pre-COVID. COVID, we fell to about 4,500 animals in our shelter for the year. Now we're going to probably hit 6,500 this year. We have more and more animals entering our shelter every single day that are stray and unaltered. So if we can provide these services to the community, it's huge to keep those funds, that have to help pay for those spays and neuters down so we can focus on other areas of the county that need the help. So we greatly appreciate you guys participating in this.
I just want to add, at the last statement, that I personally feel somewhat responsible moving a population from one place to another, thinking that's going to solve my problem, but
Right.
it just moves it to someplace else.
Just another area,
We just
correct.
need to be a little bit more cognizant of the fact that if we move a cat from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, we're not solving the problem, we're just moving it to the new neighborhood. Like I said, I found myself doing that a couple of times, and I started to realize that's not really solving the problem. The problem is the proliferation of cats in the neighborhood happens because they're not spayed and neutered. They're just living wildly and they're reproducing wildly. And when a cat is born in a certain area, that's the area that they want to stay on and grow on and have kids on, just like regular human beings. So thank you
Yes.
very much. This
Correct.
program would be, again, this is for domestic animals and community cats.
Correct.
So it doesn't
Yep.
mean that just cats. I mean, we've spoken about cats, but it could be dogs, it could be other kind of.
Your own pets, yes, your own pets in your home.
Right, are there any questions, anything more that we need to highlight this program? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the items as presented.
So moved. Second.
And I want to thank the director for taking the time and being able to coordinate this with you and be able to impact the community that way. Thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries, and we move to item number 7. It's a board of directors of the Orange Grove Rancho Mesa Verde Improvement District number 22-202 district to authorize the Finance Service Department to establish a new capital improvement project fund and a budget authority for the Orange Grove Rancho Mesa Verde Improvement District wastewater collection system. Want to begin by thanking Supervisor Porchas and Rachel Stalwart for actually moving that project from the stage where we were thinking about it and talking about it and thinking about it again and talking about it and not being able to get the community to move forward to the point now where there's a fund established. Most of the time, these projects happen because of timing. There's a timing and circumstantial situation that allows us to spend a lot of money in a specific area to solve a specific problem. That doesn't come very often. It happened at the Colonia BNC for one time. It happened in Gaston at one time because the city of San Luis was willing to take on the sewer system. And it seems to be getting closer to happening in the Orange Grove area, Mesa Verde, because the city of Somerton has taken a keen interest in solving that problem. And I didn't want this to go, it's so anticlimactic that you get closer to solving a problem and you're so tired of the problem that you don't want to mention it anymore. I don't want to fall into that. I wanted to publicly thank Rachel, publicly thank Supervisor Porchas for actually taking a keen interest in this and being able to, and the administrator, obviously, for sort of you guys putting it all together so that at least there's a chance that we may be able to do something substantial for those residents in that area. Are there any questions or are there any comments?
I just have a couple of comments. Rachel, thank you for doing this. I mean, it's been a long time, since 2013. So, we did the water and now tackling the sewer, but, it's been a long time. The light is getting closer at the end of the tunnel.
It's not a train coming. Well, it looks like
thank you and thank anybody else, all the staff that really helped this, and also to the city of Somerton that for taking this on. So that was
Definitely, yes.
Well, some things kind of have to, get to a certain point for them to actually see some movement. This is one of those that I've been waiting on myself for a long time. It's tough to face those people out there in every election cycle and tell them, well, I can't help you solve your problem because, one, we don't have a tool to solve your problem. This is getting us closer to that. And I see Hill out there in the back. I think he's there to answer any questions. And if you don't have any questions, then we can move on and approve it and get it going. It's just setting up a fund, right? All right, hold on. It's not done yet. Is there a motion and a second to approve the item?
Motion.
second.
Okay, there's been a
You
motion.
know
and-
what, Martin, I'll withdraw if you want to make it.
That's-
Sorry.
That's okay.
I jumped again.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. We'll flip it. The motion was made by Supervisor Porchas and the second was made by Supervisor Lyons to go ahead and approve the the item as presented, the Public Works item as presented. Again, Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you.
discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Hill, for being here in case we needed to ask a question on the financial side. We'll keep it moving and go into the discussion and action items, and we'll have the Public Health District Director in Emergency Management Service and County Administration discuss and possible action regarding COVID-19 updates and activities to include discussion of events and activities occurring at the international border that involve or affect county health and emergency management. Before you begin, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that there's a couple of people that used to wear masks that are now wearing masks again. I suppose that means something. It's like a signal. It's like a canary in the mine type situation. Supervisor Pancrasi and Alejandro Figueroa, who I saw somewhere in there wearing a mask, means to me that numbers must be going up. People getting a little nervous. What's going on?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Diana Gomez, Director of Public Health. Yes, our numbers we're seeing an increase across the country, the state, and we're definitely seeing that increase here in our community. As I discussed before, it's primarily that subvariant of the Omicron variant. It's the B4.5. And what we see is that's more contagious. It's more likely to infect somebody that's had a different version of that virus before. It's a good idea to be cautious. I have seen more people wearing masks. If you're in a crowded space or you anticipate an event coming up, be mindful of that. We don't want anybody's plans being disrupted. Busy with levels of high congregation tend to be the places that you want to be concerned with. A reminder that if you're ill, please have yourself get tested. We still have free tests at the libraries. They're available free of charge. Your insurance companies are still covering some of those, but we in the county have those available. So our positivity rate dipped a little bit. Of all lab reported cases, and keep in mind that this doesn't include any of the home tests, which are really prevalent and a lot of people are taking advantage of it. So of all those lab reported cases, 34% are coming back positive. That's a slight dip from 38. And again, we had a higher peak, about 2 weeks ago. So we're seeing that come down a little bit. But again, we're all busy going back to our activities. So just a reminder, we still have clinics at the health department Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 11:30, and 1 to 4. People are welcome to come in and get their boosters. Children 6 months and older are eligible for a vaccine now. Those got approved a little while ago. Children ages 5 to 11 can receive a Pfizer booster 5 months after they've completed their first series. And again, there's a second booster that was approved for anybody over the age of 50 or anybody that is immunocompromised. So just a reminder for people to keep that in mind. And just if you have any questions, please reach out to us or to your healthcare provider so that you can get those answers to make the best decision you can for you and your family.
Again, we don't want to sort of create a panic of any kind. I mean, it's a very different time. I think that most people by now have realized what preventive measures they can take and what they should do to sort of protect themselves. I think that we're now at a stage, I think, as a country and as a county where we really have to leave it to people's decision-making process. And that, again, without getting too deep into it, is where we are as a nation and as a country and as a county. We are in that process where we have to let people make their own decisions about what sort of risk and what level of risk they want to expose themselves to, or if at all they think they need to take any measures. But we welcome everybody and we welcome everybody's decision. And as that, we will have to move on. Anything else? You have a question?
Diana, you said the libraries have free testing?
Yes, so what we do, it's those take-home tests, and so you can just go up to the circulation desk and ask them for them. You do have to be over the age of 18, but we worked with the library director, and they made sure that they're available at every branch in the county.
Oh, okay. Maybe, because I think we should let the public, or I know, how many people see this channel? 1.5 million?
Don't do that. Don't do that. They're very sensitive about the number of people who watch this. Yeah, but it's in the thousands.
Yeah, the library has announced it as well, and so we just want, we want people to know, we'll continue to make those available, like you said.
I think that every once in a while, we do get some coverage from the local newspaper. And the fact is that there are still some places in there you can get a free test. You know, if you want to know what they are without, you know, interfering in the private sector, because I know that Walmart and Walgreens and some of the clinics in town do testing, but they charge for every test. And I know people are a little reluctant sometimes to do that, but there are some locations where free testing is still available.
Well, I haven't seen any.
Oh, because
believe me, I went and got tested, and it's $20 or use if you don't have insurance.
I didn't want to toot my own horn, but we do this.
But that's why I'm trying. You know, there's people out there that don't have insurance, and I mean, $20 is not a lot, but when I see other people that are not from.
Right, and it's important if you have a big family and you think you've been exposed, you want to test everybody. So that's why we were particularly, we really wanted to make sure in the outlying areas, you know, for example, in Dayton, Welton, there's not a lot of testing options like there is here, you know, in this area. So yeah, you just need to go to the, we just want to make them available. It's important to us that people get tested and have that level of awareness. We know that in our community, we have a lot of people where grandma lives at home with you and an elderly uncle, and those are the people that we're really trying to look out for. We want to make sure that, you know, you and your family members have access to that so you could take the necessary precautions. But we'll do another outreach.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Porteous, we'll do some messaging to make sure people are aware of that. Just a reminder. You bet.
Yeah, and look, this is getting to be a little bit difficult to handle. When we're telling people free testing means you take your test home and you do it yourself, it's not really testing on a site. Testing on a site to me means that you get tested, you get a form that says you don't have it or you do have it. Some people who are trained to do some of this testing does it. When you go home and you stick something in your nose and you, oh, God, this is bad, that's not really truly testing as far as I'm concerned. Testing is when somebody else does it for you or to you, and they do it in a way, in a manner that, I mean, some of those tests are already not the most reliable tests in the world. So having it done at home and not having a response, you know, I think that you ought to do your testing at home just to sort of give you an idea whether you have it or not. Testing is something that you should do. You know, it's really going to get into a long and convoluted explanation here, but testing should be something you do as a system, I mean, systematically, because when you test when you feel bad, it's already kind of too late. You already have it. You probably already gave it to your partner. You probably already gave it to your kids or something. It's a little late. But free testing, which is what we were talking about here. There's an organization in San Luis that does free testing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 8 to 11. If you want to find out what it is, call the health department. They should know where it's at. And I know I don't want to get involved in this directly because it's a little touchy, the process is, when you talk about doing it for free. But in reality, there are some people out there who have been trained to do it, and you should get it done. If you feel you need something for the job, for example, if you go to work and you need a form, it's not going to work that you say, well, I tested at home and I'm sick and I can't go to work. You're going to need something a little more than that. So please do a little bit of research. If you feel sick, test and test quickly. And remember, that's something we said last time. Most of the therapeutics that exist, most of the medicine that exists is better when it's taken right away. After 5 or 6 days of having it, you're a little past the point you really get that benefit from that, you know, from the medicines. So please, as soon as you feel sick, if you feel sick, or if you've been out of the country, or if you've been in places that have a lot of people in there, remember, be preventive. You know, don't be reactive. Reactive is just a little too late. Be a little more preventive. Remember, you are in charge of not only your own health, but the health of people around you. So please, you know, be a little responsible about it, okay? Is there anything else? No? Well, thank you very much. Thanks to the health department. Now, Tony, it's your time. You see, Tony is always preventive. He always wears a mask. I hope I didn't say anything that...
Tony Padilla, Director of Emergency Management, Yuma County. Just a side story. I had a couple of my volunteers end up sick. I went out to the library, got a couple of test kits, took them out, dropped them off at their door. They were positive, and they sought medical attention. So it does work. It's available out there. It's a tool. But I recommended they went and got medical attention right after that, and they did. So just going to give you a brief of the border activities. According to Arizona Customs Border Protection.gov, We up to June 30th, they've had 1,634,104 enter the United States since October. 49% were Title VIII, which means they're allowed to stay in, and 50.7 were under Title 42, which they would be returned to their country or returned to Mexico. Yuma sector, this as of June, we had 235,230, up from 211,802 from last month. We expect to get August numbers here in the next week or so. July's numbers in the next week or so. So I'll be able to present that, I hope, at the next board meeting. Title VIII in Yuma was 208,518. That's an increase of 20,548 increase over the sector for the month of June. 26,712 were Title 42, which is 11%. So the majority of ours are Title VIII and allowed to enter in the country pending hearing. Tucson sector, they're pretty much flip-flop. They're at 8% Title VIII and 42%. 79% of Title 42. So most of their activity goes back to Mexico or back to their country of origin. We talked I think Russ was here last meeting, and he talked about the border deaths. The Yuma County medical examiner is the one that investigates those, goes out and takes a report on those. They've been very active since January through July. They've had 42 undocumented border crossers recovered in Yuma County. That is an increase of 147%. Last year, for the whole year, they had 17, and they're already at 42. Of those 42, 25 were from Mexico. They had 8 other countries involved, and then 4 are currently unidentified. They're not sure who they are or where they're from. Obviously, the migrant surge continues. Regional Center for Border Health continues to provide the services with the NGOs. The DC buses continue to take 2 to 3 buses to DC each week on a voluntary basis. Those people want to go, they're allowed to go. 34 buses as of Friday have left Yuma County with a total of 1,284 people voluntarily going on that trip. The only other things is that I can update you on is last couple of weeks we've had meetings with the state and the federal government in reference to the increase of the border fence, the federal fence that's going up, and also the state is continuing to put the fencing up to protect those agriculture industries. They've been meeting with the farmers, also with the federal partners to ensure they can put those fences in there. And then we continue to have our weekly meetings with Department of Homeland Security, DEMA, CBP, Regional Center for Border Health when they have them, and then Southern EMs, and then our community organized to assist in disasters. Barring that, any questions you might have, I'll try to answer those.
Well, you may not be able to answer some of these questions, but you may pass them on. Look, when you have a 50% rate of acceptance, and the sector in Tucson has an 8% rate of acceptance on Section 8, I think people know that. And people go where they think they're going to be taken in.
Correct.
So this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy in Yuma County. If you take 100% of the people and you accept 50% of it, and it's one of the places in the border where most people are accepted, I think it gets around, it gets known. I knew it already. So, I think that there needs to be some sort of policy that applies throughout the whole border, not just in sections like in Tucson or someplace else. I mean, we should.
And I think the answer to that is the geographics locations. Obviously, Yuma is a hotter climate than it is in the Tucson sector. So a lot of those people who would be returned under Title 42 would go to those sectors. That's why their numbers are higher for Title 42 returns. Whereas Yuma County, Title 42 of those people from those countries, I probably don't have them all in my head, but I think it's Peru. I think I'm trying to think of the other countries.
Brazil. Brazil, Venezuela.
There you go. Those countries, people tend to go to Tucson and try to cross illegally. And I say they're all crossing the border illegally, but they're going to areas where they're not normally apprehended, where most of our traffic is coming across through the Morales Dam area. County, I think it's 15th and a half, County 18th, out those areas. They're just walking across waiting for those pickups because they know they qualify under Title 8 to stay in the country. So that's why a majority of our people are staying here in Title VIII,
Like I
where
said,
Tucson
if
sector,
you-
they're going elsewhere.
If you make it easy, they'll find it.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, and you know, that's what's happening at the Morales Dam.
Mhm.
It is just becoming a crossing point that is known throughout the country of Mexico as a place to go to get across.
Well, the numbers you said for the month, 200 something thousand?
That's not for the month, that's for the year. Yuma sector had 230, since October that is, 235,230, but we had an increase of 20,548 for the
That were
month.
Title
the
VIII
year.
For the year, more or less our
For June.
population.
Yes, sir.
Our normal population is
Yeah,
less
and-
than what's coming across.
And you got to remember, if you're taking these buses all the way to Washington D.C. and you ask people whether they want to go further into the country, it is an easy choice. I mean, it's either stay in Yuma and wait to get a ticket, or go to Washington D.C. and get a ticket from there to wherever you're going. I still believe that the policies, in some ways, create this kind of a situation in different locations. The policies and maybe the fence hole, the holes in the fence, which is getting fixed. There's a lot of factors that come into play as far as I'm concerned. But at the end of the day, it just can't continue the way it is. I mean, people shouldn't be crossing in July and August. Those are very hot months, so that's why we have so many instances of problems and danger. It is an unsustainable process, Tony. Thanks for giving us an update. And again, I hope that the federal government is listening. I hope that the state government is listening, and I hope some of the local Border Patrol officials, which I'm sure are listening, understand that we definitely support their efforts. And there's got to be a better way to do this. This is not the way it should be.
Look in the paper and you've got the mayors of DC and New York whining and crying, saying we need more money to handle what little bit they're getting coming up into their area from our problem.
Probably what they've gotten so far is probably less than we get in a week here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem. We're moving the problem someplace else. We're really not solving the problem. We're just transporting it
We're
someplace
trying
else.
to make them aware that there is a.
Oh, they're aware.
Well, these people are going somewhere in other places, not all of DC and not Washington. They're
I
going to
don't
other
want to get
parts of
into
the
a
country.
immigration policy debate here, but it's really not good for anyone in the country in any way, shape, or form that you can see.
Mr.
It's
Chair.
benefiting anyone in this country to have this sort of situation happen at the border, and much less happen in Yuma County. Thank you very much for keeping an eye on it, and continue to give us information as you see fit.
Mr. Chair, when you see Amanda again, would you please tell her thank you for all that she's doing?
Yes, I echo that completely, not only her, but all the other NGOs that are out there helping with this organization. This is actually humanitarian issues, and they're dealing with it quite efficiently. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of those organizations in Yuma County to support this humanitarian issue, so.
Okay,
All right, thank
Tony, I'm just trying not to listen to the snide remarks about testing. It's not go there. Okay, so we're kind of done with this one, I hope. We are going to move on. Thank you. And, well, that was quick. Wait until I finish so we can leave. The next item is a public work item. It's the Board of Directors of Yuma County Improvement District 2017-02 Tacna Water, and in conjunction with the Arizona State Statutes 48-922, will open, examine, and publicly declare all bids received for construction of the Tacna water infrastructure system within the district, and direct the district engineer to tabulate the bids, review them, and submit the recommendations for award at the special session of the Board of Directors scheduled for August the 4th at 1 p.m. here. I heard that Christy was going to open them, but Rachel's going to
Yes,
get
she
it
is.
started, and there will be some explanations about what's going on.
Okay.
Rachel?
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. We're very excited to be here today to have our bids open for the Tacna Water Infrastructure Project. And due to the complexity of the improvement district processes and way that's handled in conjunction with our bond council, and we're tied to the Rural Development Funding Agency as well. And so we always take 2 to 3 days before award is official, because Rural Development requires their signature on that award before it's recommended to you as well. So
Okay,
we
so
can
what's the
proceed.
all right. Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you very much.
It says here Maria Brady. Is she here? No? Oh, so it's represented. Who is the gentleman, the tall gentleman?
Hi.
And this is Stantec, our Stantec engineer, Kevin Daniels,
Kevin
representing Maria Brady.
All right.
Who is away.
Okay.
Good morning, members of the board. Chairman Reyes, Christie Isabel, I'll be opening your bids in the order that we received them. And the first one we have is from Gutierrez Canales Engineering in Yuma, Arizona.
Okay. I've always had this kind of question, but we go through this process. You open them up, you read them, and then we sort of do a little bit of background review to see if that is a responsible bidder. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that the fact that someone is the lowest bidder doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the chosen architect or engineer or company. That sometimes when you go through the process of reviewing their qualifications, they sometimes don't meet the qualifications. So what we're going to do is just sort of publicly open them, record them, and then let the process take its course so that there will be a recommendation for the fourth of a responsible bidder, one that can actually do the job. Thank you.
Sometimes it's hard to get them out of the envelope.
Get a bigger cutter.
Yeah.
Are you going to read who they're from? Judy?
Good job already.
Gutierrez Gonzalez Engineering.
I think it may take a moment to find the right page for the bid amount because the page numbering is maybe you know more. Page 4 of 8. There, that looks like it. Okay. Again, this is Gutierrez Canales Engineering, and the total bid price is $14,994,470.21.
For only 14 million? I was being facetious.
$14,994,470.21.
Is it 904 or 994?
994.
Right.
And I didn't mention that all three bids came in on time for the bid deadline. So that was bidder number 1. Bidder number 2, I don't know who it's from because they didn't label the inside, the outside of the package, so we'll find out in a moment.
Unfortunately, that disqualifies. No, I'm just kidding.
They did label it that is the bid for the TACNA project.
John's getting a little nervous? John Smith, he always gets nervous with any type of joke that strays from the legal position of the county.
Total bid price is $10,890,398.65.
And this was who?
Is that
This is, oh, I forgot to mention that. Let me see. That's on a different page somewhere. 31 it says, but this is Taylor Engineering PLLC, and this morning they stopped by and requested that stated they were withdrawing their bid. So they did not get all the quotes that they wanted apparently, so.
So they pulled their bid back. It was a little encouraging there for a minute.
Yeah, really.
You have to stand up for this one because it's in a box.
I would stand back a little bit.
Box.
This is Yuma Valley Contractors.
I haven't done one of this in a long time.
From BNC? Last time we did this was BNC, I think. Colonia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Soon to be done with the Orange Grove here. Here, you have to pull off a job. Taylorton Company. We just pull each.
Oops, sorry.
Somebody is $4 million separate.
If you can pull the box up, thank you. I may definitely need help finding the page on this.
Who is it?
This is Yuma Valley Contractors. I'm hoping it's near the front here.
There's a table of
but-
contents.
I don't see a table of contents right off the front.
Take your time, Chrissy. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm just not,
You're not finding the page where
and
it
I'm
says the
not finding a
total?
table of contents anywhere.
What happens when they're big, presentations like that?
I'm not in any hurry, go ahead. Okay. I'm gonna put a clip on this page so we can find it later. Total bid price, $11,550,647.30. $11,550,647.30.
Those are the only 3 bids?
Yes.
And one of them
Withdrew.
so we have 2 bids left. Make sure that you review their proposal to see if it meets all the requirements, and then get back to us the 4th after 1 p.m., and we'll make the decision then. Well, thank you very much, and thank everybody for their patience, and you heard the numbers. It's a matter of making sure that they can do the job. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming over and having the patience to go through the process. Right, I'm gonna wait a couple of minutes for you guys to pick up a little bit. Well, maybe not, maybe we'll move on. Again, I think that we need to do what is asked for us in the agenda, which is we open and examine all bids received, and then we'll give direction to the district engineer to tabulate the bids, to review them and submit the recommendation for award at a special session of board director scheduled for August the 4th at 1 p.m. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, okay,
There's been a motion and a second to go ahead and do as directed on item B of the item presented to us. Any discussion on the item? If not, I'll see you guys again on August the 4th. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And for those people in Tacna who've been waiting for this for such a long time, it seems to be, like Supervisor Port just said earlier, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it doesn't look like it's a train coming, so we may get some of these issues resolved. The next item is item 3, Development Services. We'll refer case HO21-0043 and HO20-0032 to the county attorney for action in Superior Court to obtain an order of abatement. I suppose we'll get a PowerPoint presentation. And basically what we're talking about is getting a court order to go ahead and go in and clean out the site, or at least order through the court system that the site be cleaned up or face the consequence.
Correct. Chairman Reyes, members of the board, I just wanted to have a brief PowerPoint to where you could see some of the photos showing the conditions of the site.
Sorry, I looked at the pictures, they were disgusting.
As we have taken this through the hearing officer process twice and have had those cases found in violation and closed, the process closed. When the process is closed, that does not rid the violation, it just stops the hearing officer process. And so at this point, we're requesting that the board refer this case to the county attorney for an order of abatement.
You know, well, this looks bad. It certainly, you know, we certainly have a lot of cases like this. What makes this case special? That it's gone through many different steps and it doesn't get resolved?
Correct.
You guys are just basically saying, we give up in trying to, we're gonna have to get a quarter to do this? Well, not, I should rephrase that. You haven't given up. You're actually just trying more tools.
Right. Going to court is one of the tools we have. When we take a case to a hearing officer, we're trying to encourage the property owners to take action to clean up the property. When they are no longer, in our opinion, listening to that process and what the hearing officers are requesting, we go to the next tool, which is court.
Is this just one picture or is it a picture of all the sites, the two sites?
It's one property, the two cases that we've had on it.
Oh, so it's one property, two cases.
Yep.
I think
Mr. Chair,
yes, Supervisor
Greg,
Blanker.
are they allowed to have two, isn't that a single family dwelling?
Zoning?
Yeah, zoning, and are they allowed to have two families on that?
That was one of the violations, is that they had multiple dwellings on the property. Depending on the zoning in general conversation, there are some zoning districts that allow for multiple with special use permits.
But they don't have one.
No, because that's why we brought the violation against.
That's what I read it. I just wanted to make sure everybody else knew. Okay.
All right. You know, and I, before we move on to court action, I do want to say that, you know, personally, particularly in cases that had to do with my constituents, I know that the county Planning and Zoning Commission and the Development Division bends over backwards to try to accommodate some of these issues. It really takes a lot to get this far on a situation like this because, you know, we go as far as offering help, cleaning up. We do, you know, the county does bend over backwards to try to solve this problem so they don't get to this stage. When it gets to this stage, it's because it really hasn't been able to move forward at all. And as you can see from the pictures of this property, we're in a situation now where it's public health. I mean, somebody could get sick from that. So anyway, any other questions, comments? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to go ahead and refer the cases.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we refer the case to the county attorney's office for abatement.
I'll second it.
You know, before we move on, we like to say that this is part of that renewed effort to get some of these issues resolved. It's taken sometimes months, if not years, to get to a situation where we get this far. But we want people to know we're serious about, you know, cleaning up some of these areas out there. And this is just part of that process. So any more discussion? No questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Craig. We'll move on to number 4, Development Services, Planning and Zoning Division, request for modification of subdivision regulations for the proposed Las Barrancas number 2 subdivision. Jeff Clem from Elliott Homes, agent for Sunset Tarteso, Arizona LLC, request modifications from the Yuma County subdivision regulations and Yuma County Public Works standards for the proposed Las Barrancas number 2 subdivision, assessors parcel number 729-03-028, zone recreational vehicle subdivision located in the vicinity of the southeast corner of County 12th Street, 40th Street and Avenue, 14.5E, Yuma, Arizona, and we'll get a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presented this item, Las Barrancas number 2 subdivision modification of subdivision regulations. This is a request for modification from the Yuma County subdivision regulations, section 4.15B, and Yuma County Public Works standards number 3-340. for the proposed Las Barrancas. The applicant, the developer is not proposing any improvements since existing subdivisions in the area do not have lighting and no lighting preparation was left for any future extension of the lighting system. They're proposing not to incorporate the street lightings along 40th Street according to section 4.15B. The engineering department recommends approval of this request since Las Barrancas number 1 was not required to provide street lights along 40th Street. This is the map showing highlighted in yellow, the area where the modification is requested. Number 2, due to the existing alignment of Avenue 14.5 East in Barrancas number 1, subdivision and location of the north quarter corner of section 14, the projection of existing roads from Barrancas number 1 cannot be more or equal to an 80-degree angle. So the request is to cannot vary from 80 degrees. Developer is requesting street intersections along 14.5 feet that varies from this requirement, which is standard number 3-340. The engineering department recommends approval of this request since Avenue 14.5E meanders throughout the road alignment. The proposed layout does not create an unsafe street connection. On the map, you see the locations of where the modification is requested. Chairman, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the requested modification for Las Barrancas number 2 subdivision. That concludes staff presentation.
This is a full presentation, isn't it? Does it require a public hearing? Or is it just, it's a full process?
Yeah.
All right, so, okay, so I'm gonna allow next, well, obviously the board to make any questions or to ask any questions that they.
Mr. Chairman, this does not require a public hearing. No public hearing notice was published.
Okay, well, all right, so I just wanted to make sure, we don't want to skip a step and then have it come back and haunt us. So this is just a question. So if it doesn't, it comes back to us for any questions or comments, and then we'll make a motion and second it. Now, I technically, or most of the time anyway, will allow someone to come up and say something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a public hearing for people to express their opinions. This is one of those modifications where I personally believe that a lot of what the developer wants normally is more economic in nature. I understand that, they're trying to save money, but sometimes the residents of those future subdivisions, when they allow the sidewalks to be smaller or they allow no lighting in the district, will come back later and complain to the board of supervisors, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? So having gone through that experience, I always kind of tend to take my time with this modification request simply because what it means is it will, the fact that, for example, Barrancas 1 didn't have lighting doesn't mean that it will never. Somebody is going to ask. Some people would like to have no lighting at all whatsoever in the subdivision, and other people are going to say, why it looks dark as a wolf's mouth. And so we have to take our time with these things because I think that what we're dealing with is present versus future, and future means dealing with constituents. Present means dealing with developers. As a developer myself, I can tell you right now that there is a very, very thin line that separates, public good from economic good, and we got to be careful we don't cross it too many times. This one is about lighting, I think. So are there any comments? If not, if nobody has any comments to make, I'll go back to the supervisors. Now I remember the staff is agreeing to it, and so is the Planning and Zoning Commission. They agreed to all the modifications. They have recommended approval of them. So unless you have a problem with this, I would ask for a motion to go ahead and approve or disapprove.
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Okay, there's been a motion, a second, to approve the modification of the subdivision regulations for the proposed Las Barrancas number 2 subdivision. Anyone has any comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. And then we move on to item number 5, which is another request for modification of subdivision regulations for proposed 928X Elite subdivision. Kevin Dahl from Dahl Robbins Associates, agent for 928X Elite. Request modifications from the Yuma County subdivision regulations sections, a lot of sections, and Yuma County Public Works standards for the proposed 928X Elite subdivision. That is in assessor parcel number 723-16-033, zone plan development, located at the northwest corner of Avenue 4E and 43rd Street, Yuma, Arizona. And let me just, before you begin with the presentation, tell you that the PD designation is specifically designed so that, you'll be able to have a little bit of leeway in how you do a subdivision, as opposed to a zoning regulation that establishes basically, 1,000, 1 lot per 6,000. And a PD subdivision, you can do a little bit, you can be a little more creative. I hope this is not just being creative. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, Anson Lahosset, Senior Planner, presenting modifications requests of 928X Elite Subdivision. The developer is requesting 2 modifications from the Yuma County Subdivision Regulations for the proposed 928X Elite Subdivision. It is requested to not improve Avenue 4E per the requirement perimeter roads. The developer is not proposing any improvements since the Citrus Business Park 2 subdivision provided improvements to Avenue 4E. The engineering department recommends approval of this request since the developer of Citrus Business Park constructed road improvements along the road alignment. This is the tentative map provided by the applicant with Avenue 4E highlighted in yellow. And it is requested to not improve constructing sidewalks along 42nd Place and 43rd Street per this requirement, sidewalks. The developer is not proposing these improvements since nearby developments were not required to. The engineering department recommends approval of this request since the development is within an industrial commercial subdivision which did not provide sidewalks throughout its development. Therefore, sidewalks will not be required. This is 42nd Place and 43rd Street highlighted in yellow. On the left is an image of the existing 928X Elite Storage, which is being proposed as a commercial condominium subdivision. And on the right is the existing Premier Storage, which is on South Foothills Boulevard, which is an example of existing commercial condominium subdivision. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the requested modifications. And that concludes staff's presentation, Mr. Chairman.
One question to me. Is this connecting any subdivision to another subdivision? No, this is on its own.
This is inside a
This is a cul-de-sac, yeah.
Well, but it's inside a commercial development, Tony.
Well, that's why, the question that I asked was, it doesn't go through anything. This is a cul-de-sac, you go into the subdivision, come out, right? So I guess what I'm getting at is, this works for me as long as it doesn't connect one area where people walk to another area that people walk to. And you stop, sidewalk on an industrial site, but people still have to walk from one end to another. This is desert. I mean, most of the stuff is out in the
It's
desert.
across the street from my office. Doesn't have anything like that.
Okay, just wanted to get the answer. All right, so there is no impact,
No.
as I would say, to people walking that have to stop walking on sidewalk and walk in the sun.
No.
All right, okay, then I mean, the presentation's been done. Any questions?
I just a comment, Mr. Chair. We just approved the other one, and I hate when they recommend something just because, or ask for it because another subdivision or another area didn't have it. And if that's gonna be the case, then what keeps from other developers coming in front of us and asking because so-and-so didn't have it, or we approved it, and I just don't like that language. So if
Right.
staff starts looking at different language, because that's gonna come back and.
It's not an argument that we particularly like to get, it didn't happen before, so it won't happen, we don't want it to happen again. This is pretty close to each other. So, and this is developed pretty close to each other. So that one is a little more palatable to me now than it would be if you came back like 5 years from now and said, well, we didn't do it in the first one. And I think that's what Supervisor Porches refers to when he says, what happens with precedent? Because it used to be really a legal sort of argument that used to be made back some time ago. If you allow this to happen, then somebody else comes in and says, well, you did it for so and so. And that was always a problem for me. until I was told that in planning and zoning matters, well, there really isn't such a thing as precedent because every case is individual. And that's why I ask questions pertaining to this particular site, because I certainly don't want to deal with the fact that, you know, some of this stuff is predicated on, we did it for someone else, so we do it again. I guess Supervisor Porches has made the point that I hope this doesn't establish a precedent that we have to later on sort of kneel down to, because it's, you know, it's precedent, right? So in the questions that were asked, I think are concurrent to that particular opinion. You know, we just want to make sure that this is an industrial, commercial, you know, property where people who rent or go, you know, do business in there, I guess don't really care whether they have street lighting or not. Or at this particular time, it's like buyer beware, right? So if you go rent, you should know what's in there, because.
And this whole thing, Mr. Chairman, is fenced off and only accessed by owners there.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's a buyer beware type of thing. We're not doing residential development where we later on have people complain, well, you should have thought of this, it's too dark, and there's no sidewalk, and have to walk in the sand. Those things are sort of muted by the fact that this is a commercial development. People should be aware when they, you know, go in there that there may be a little darker than normal, or that it, you know, that there isn't going to be a sidewalk to walk on. And certainly, I concur with Supervisor Porches' comment that we certainly don't want this to become a situation that establishes a precedent that every time somebody wants some sort of modification like this, we're going to say yes. It will depend on the circumstances of each case. Just want to make that point, right? Okay. Maggie, you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to point out the fact that the property on which 928 Elite Condominiums is located is an improved subdivision. So it's one lot within the overall PD. At the time of development of that PD, sidewalks were not required for any of the lots. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to require sidewalks on a small segment of this parcel itself where the remainder of the subdivision does not have
Horses
sidewalks.
left the barn type situation. The sidewalks to me were more of a residential sort of need than it is a commercial one. I think that people who sell or rent, you know, should cater to their customers. Right. So we tend to cater to the residents, and that's okay. That's the way the system is supposed to be designed. We just wanted to make that point, Maggie. And we understand that this is sort of like some of the last portions of that PD that are coming up, and they're mostly the commercial, industrial type situations. I guess if we get residentials, we'll look at that differently. But this is a commercial site, so I understand why the staff is saying okay. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okay, are there any more comments from anyone? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to go ahead and approve this modification.
Approve as presented.
It's been a motion and a second to approve this item as presented, this modifications to the standards. Are there any discussion, or is there any discussion? With no discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Go ahead. I think we're now going to planning and zoning agenda, and I think it's still early for a break, so we'll continue for a little while and see where we get with this. The planning and zoning agenda were full legal description of property sites. Did I skip anything? Hold on. No, that's right.
Mr. Chairman, only if you wanted to address those addenda now, that's up to you.
Yeah, well, those are like, oh, shoot. Is there anybody here that's waiting for them that we should get? You know, this is the flood control district, development services, animal control, and then this is Martinez Lake. Is anybody here from Martinez Lake, or anybody here that, you know, well, let's take care of them anyway. I just wanted to make sure that if there was somebody waiting, we'd handle that relatively quick. We have addendum number 1. We'll do that. We'll take a break in here in the agenda and take care of addendum number 1 and addendum number 2. The first one is financial services, and I think Gil was outside waiting for me just to say that. County administration, we're sitting as the board of directors of Martinez Lake Improvement and Maintenance District, and it is to adopt resolution number 2022-2024 approving a tax rate levy and budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Now, Desiree, none of the emails that we got dealt with the Lake Martinez district. It was something else, right? The hospital board district. Did we already approve the hospital board district yet?
No.
Oh, okay, well, fine. Then we'll go back to this one. This one is about the Martinez Lake Road Improvement Maintenance District. Hill, you have anything to say? Normally, I would say, we have to let these people know that we do all these things normally before the end of July, or before the end of June, excuse me, so that they are set in July, so that we don't get like later on, some adjustments and surprises. But I mean, it's not the first time we had to deal with the late request, yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Gil Villegas, Chief Financial Officer. For the Martinez Lake Road Improvement District, last August, the Board of Supervisors took over their operations as allowed by statute. So this is mainly a maintenance item that we need to do if we would like to have a levy for the upcoming calendar year, fiscal year. The recommendation that I have made to the administrator is just to keep the same rate as they've been doing it for the past few years, I believe. So what I'm asking today, so that this can be included in the overlapping tax authority rates sheet, which is going to be brought to you next board meeting on August 15th, for the resolution to be adopted. Now, this needs to be done, and I'm going to check with legal, this needs to be done under the authority of the Board of Directors for the Martinez Lake.
So we were going to basically stop as the regular Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Board of Directors of the Martinez Lake Road Improvement District. I should have done that. So technically and legally, we're now sitting as the Board of Directors of the Martinez Lake Road Improvement District, okay? I want to make sure that we do that. Thank you for bringing that up, because I would have missed it. All right, so now as a discussion point, is there anything that the board members would like to discuss? Remember, we're keeping the same rate. Sometimes the rate, it's not indicative of the levy, as we have discussed plenty of times before. But in this particular case, I think that the rate just keeps up with inflation, keeps up with, it's not that large, is it?
Mr. Chairman, no, the rate is $100 per unit per lot, which is going to raise around 148 units, so $14,800.
And that should be enough to run that maintenance district.
I checked the activity with the treasurer's office, and for the last fiscal year, we didn't see that many invoices. I think there were a couple of invoices that they paid had to do with legal, and some they had to do with engineering. So there had not been a lot of activity, I guess, because the board took over their operations pretty much. I haven't heard many invoices that need to be paid, nothing like that.
Right, so this is going to be the only year that we're going to be doing this without getting a lot more financial information, so we can actually set the tax rate to fit the expenses.
I'm just curious, Gil, what do they have in their current account? Do you have an idea?
Yes, the current balance as of the beginning of the fiscal year is $39,789.
789?
Yes.
We're going to have to take a closer look next year to actually see if we're just simply levying because, or, we put in a tax rate that's based not on the actual expenses, but actually on perceived needs that may or may not be.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not completely familiarized with the type of operations that they have over there, Improvement District Road. If they have a big repair that they need to do, I don't think $39,000 is going to go very far. So that's the reason why I recommended.
Well, we'll do this year, but next year we're going to pay a little closer attention to it, okay? All right, do I hear a motion
I'll make the motion.
to adopt resolution number 2024 and approve a tax rate, a levy, and a budget for fiscal year 2022-2023? This will come back to us for clarification or actual final action on the next scheduled board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. By statute, the third Monday in August, we need to adopt the rates. And I'm going to be bringing to you not only the board adopted, Yuma County, but everybody, school districts, municipalities, CFDs, everything that we have.
Right, okay, so make sure that the hospital board knows that, because they may be a little, did somebody raise or lower the temperature in the room? Is it getting hot because I'm talking too much?
Getting hot.
Or is it because of the actual, because it's getting hot, isn't it? Or maybe it's because we wear too much clothes in there. But anyway, look, let's get back to
Yes, but
this.
the deputy won't let us
Yeah.
remove.
Yeah, there's a heat that's coming from setting a tax rate, right? All right, so we're gonna set this tax rate. There's been a motion. There was a motion, one.
Yes.
And
I'll
there's-
second.
There's been a second now for this motion. Any more discussion on the motion? No? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. That takes care of regular addendum one. Thank you, Gil. You may want to stay for the heat. Regular addendum number two would be Development Services Flood Control District appoint Jerry Cook as Animal Control Zoning and Flood Control Hearing Officer effective August 1, 2022 through June 30, 2024. Yesterday's rain made it, yeah? What?
Mr. Chairman, you'll need to reconvene as the Board of
I forgot
Supervisors.
that. We're leaving the Board of Directors of the Martinez Lake District Board and reconvening as the regular Board of Supervisors. Or no, wait a minute, are we?
Yes,
Are we?
that's
Okay,
exactly.
so we don't have to go like in the flood control district, right? We don't have a set,
This
do
is,
we?
this is flood control district and health district
we're
as
the-
well.
Yeah, but as a
The
Board of
board-
Supervisors, we serve as a board control district. We just simply need to make that point that it's legally clear that we're now stating as the Board of Supervisors, which serves as the flood control district board. Okay? All right. So we'll now take this on, and it's just a hearing officer appointment, Jerry Cook. So he will deal with animal control, zoning, and flood control hearing officer violations. Normally, that's what they'll deal with, right?
Correct. This is just a standard reappointment. He served in this capacity for a number of years.
Who is Jerry Cook?
Jerry Cook, before being the hearing officer, retired from being a zoning inspector for Yuma County. And so he has quite a bit of experience with the zoning ordinance and enforcement. So he's familiar with the laws and regulations associated with that, and has performed the hearings for, my best estimate is about 6 to 8 years.
Okay, he's not getting paid too much, is he?
Not very much.
You don't have to go into that. That is more executive stuff. We're just reappointing Mr. Cook to a position that he's held for 6 to 8 years. So do I hear a motion to reappoint?
So moved.
There's a second. Okay, there's been a motion, a second to reappoint Mr. Jerry Cook from August 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2024 as our animal control zoning and flood control hearing officer. Any more discussion on this? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We got this one done. So we're gonna go back to the planning and zoning agenda, where full descriptions of property sites and all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. These are expedited rezoning calendar. We have 3 expedited rezoning hearings, or, one is public hearing rezoning case number 2208. The other one is special use permit number 22-03. And the other one is public hearing and rezoning case number 2206. Now, what it means is that if you don't have any particular issues with any of these cases and you want to do them expedited, we can do them expedited, which saves, saves the time. If we want the PowerPoint presentation, we can have it. We will still have some minor discussion, and I will open the public hearing for any public comment. And after closing the public hearing, we can understand a motion. If there is, normally what it means is that this has been through planning and zoning, or they have been through the system, through staff, and staff has vetted them as being ready to go, and that there is no particular opposition. If there is public opposition, normally it wouldn't be an expedited hearing, then we would then open it up to a full hearing process. Are there any questions about the expedited process?
No.
Okay, then I'll open it briefly for, if requested, a PowerPoint presentation. Does anybody want a PowerPoint presentation this? No?
I want one on number 3.
Well, you see that I need to open. I
Okay,
need to
then
open
you
number
need to
3.
open.
So why don't we just take the other 2 off, and then, we'll do this quickly, and then we'll go back to number 3 and take a little more time with that.
Thank
So I hear a motion to approve items 1 and 2.
Make a
on the
motion to
expedite-
approve for expedited.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so there's been a motion, a second, to approve the expedited process for 1 and 2. I do have to open the hearing for this process, so I just want to make sure that we follow the procedure. The motion is to approve them. I'll open the public hearing in case there's anyone out there that wants to make a comment within the context of everybody's making a comment or everybody coming up. No? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and go back to the board for their final decision on the expedited items 1 and 2. We'll take number 3 with the questions.
Make a motion to approve.
That's
Mr.
already
Chairman.
done. Yeah, I've just taken the hearing process. It's already been done. It's
Oh,
been
yeah.
motion and second. Number 1 and 2 have been motion and second.
Okay.
Okay.
So all those in favor of that motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So that takes care of item number 1 and 2 in an expedited process. We did have a public hearing, we did have the process, we just didn't get the whole presentation. We're going to open up item number 3, which is public hearing rezoning case number 2206. Eric Salzer, agent for El Paraíso Ranch, requested the rezoning of a parcel approximately 8.93 gross acre size in rural area, 10 acre to suburban site built 2 acre minimum. On assessors parcel number 74756-002 located in the southwest corner of County 15.5 Street in 4E, Yuma, Arizona. Do you have any specific questions, or you want the staff to go through a small expedited PowerPoint presentation? It's up to you, Supervisor Pancrazy.
My only question is, can you explain to me the new director of the water district tried to explain something in the notes that we had, and I didn't quite understand it about irrigation ditches and all that kind of stuff. Let me see if I can find it. He sent a letter trying to explain that
In the comments?
that the water was for external comments. Here we go.
Field ditches, servicing domestic
Yeah,
water
the
users?
ditches. Yeah, something about the ditches. Let me see.
Oh,
Can you explain that to me, please?
Mr. Chairman, Javier Barraza, Senior Planner. That letter was just a comment. At the time of land division permit approval, we're going to make sure that there's irrigation water to the 3 proposed. I know that is probably referring to conflicts that staff is unaware of, but just to bring it up as it could be conflicts with it in the future for this. That's how staff is interpreting that.
right. I can
Thank you, sir.
explain that a little more in a layman's term because I lived in.
Thank you.
What happens is you have a community ditch that runs alongside or inside a few properties. And what the district is saying is once we release the water from the main ditch, then that's a community ditch. They need to work it out between themselves, delivery system to all those sites. And so they're basically saying, okay, if you do subdivisions, if you subdivide, we can't be in charge of what happens at the end of the ditch.
Got it.
We can only be in charge of what happens in the ditch itself. So that's why they're referring to community ditches and they're referring to the lack of authority they have over them.
Got it.
Because we as a county are requesting that people have delivery systems for the water system.
Yes.
Okay, so when we are requesting that, they're saying, well, okay, that's fine with us. You can have a delivery system at the end of a property that has 3 or 4 lots, but we can't be responsible for what happens.
They're not going to deliver the
Exactly.
water.
Well, they're going to deliver the water to the point.
Yeah, but the other people
At
have
the
to be
end of it,
responsible.
yeah, they
Okay.
call you at midnight and tell you,
I
you get water at
understand that.
1 o'clock in the morning.
And they deliver water once a
Every
week or every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and they'll
So
call you at
just
midnight
one
and
at-
tell you,
one-
you got
one
water
time.
coming in an hour, so you got to get yourself out there and open up all the
Yes,
gates.
okay, okay.
Okay, well, now
Thank
you
you.
understand. it.
Now I
Lay-
understand. That's
Okay,
all I
on a
needed
layman's
to know.
terms,
Thank
they're
you.
just saying, we're not responsible for that. We're responsible for getting you the water there, but to get it to the end of that, that's going to be your problem, okay?
Thank you. That was my only
All right,
question.
so I'm gonna, okay, on this case, which it's a rezoning case, I'm gonna open it up to the public, in case there's someone in the public that wants to comment about this. Is there anyone in the public who wants to comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the board for their decision. Do you,
I move that we approve rezoning case 22-06.
there's a second? It's been motion and second to approve rezoning case number 2206. That's Salzer last name.
First
Takes me
time I've
back to
ever
the
heard that
airport. Is
comment.
it,
Yeah,
is it
it's-
related to the airport? Is it, okay, all right, well, I should, that's an agent. So there's been a motion, a second to approve item number 3 as presented, public hearing, rezoning case number 2206, which was due to be done on an expedited manner, but there was a question, so we had to pull it out. There's been a motion second to approve. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. That takes care of the expedited. Now we go to the full presentation calendar, and we have two items, actually. The first one is rezoning case number 2205. Joe Blanco requested rezoning of a parcel 21,525 square feet in size from low-density residential, 20,000 square foot minimum, to general commercial and assessors parcel number 632-57-001, located at 3760 West 8th Street, Yuma, Arizona. There will be a PowerPoint presentation so we can discuss it, and then I'll open to the public and we'll follow up the whole process. So, to start up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, present the rezoning case 22-05. The intent is to develop an automobile sales business. This is the zoning and vicinity map. The subject parcel is crosshatched at the center, access on the south via along County 8th Street. Parcels on the northeast are zoned manufactured home subdivision, improved with manufactured homes. Parcel 91, also further northeast, is high density, improved with residential uses. Parcels on the north are zoned low density residential, 20,000 square feet minimum, improved with site-built homes. Parcels on the northwest are zoned R18 with multifamily and site-built residential uses. Parcel 88, also to further northwest, is R16, low density residential, 6,000 square feet minimum, and site build. All these parcels on the west and south are zoned local commercial with a mixture of commercial uses and non-conforming residential uses. Parcels to the east are improved with commercial uses. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. Existing improvements are an office, storage, and a caretaker residence, employee and customer parking, as well as display area for the cars. This is an aerial view of the subject parcel. The view looking north of the subject property, looking east along 8th Street, looking north along El Prado Road, which is on the west. None received, no correspondence from resident within the notification area. The Planning Commission recommends approval of rezoning case number 22-05, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of approval by this board, the owner and shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver and be record a schedule for development disclosure statement. Also, the following is scheduled for development. Within 1 year of board's approval, the owner applicant shall acquire and have finalized all required permits as per appropriate code requirements. Mr. Chairman, this concludes staff presentation. Staff is.
All right, well, let me see if I can sum it up. The gentleman wants to get this zoning because he wants to put in a car sales lot.
He already has one.
He already has one right there, so he's trying to comply.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So planning zoning saying it's fine, it's in the right location. Staff is saying it scores high enough so that it should, that use is compatible to whatever is planned in that area. So I'm going to open it to a public hearing. If there is no questions from the board, I'm going to open it to a public hearing, but I do have a card from Mr. Blanco, who I may just say, you're winning, so be careful what you say, because sometimes it just,
Good morning.
okay.
I'm just here to answer any questions. Yes, as they mentioned, we are already there as a dealer. I bought the property from the gentleman, not knowing, never looked into how it was zoned. We just set up shop the way he set up shop, so.
Okay, so this is just trying to fix something that's already there.
Exactly.
All right, oh, thank you. And just remain there in case we have a question. Do we have any questions from Mr. Blanco? No, thank you, Mr. Blanco. If we have any questions, we'll ask pretty soon, okay?
No, I have a question. Do you have a truck? No, just
85 truck.
480 power, everybody's looking for.
Thank you very much. So are there any more questions? I'm going to open it to the public. Is there anyone in the public that has any questions or comments? If not, I'm going to return it back to the board for their decision.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve rezoning case number 2205.
As presented.
Second.
As presented.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the item as requested or as presented. Is there any more discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All right, anybody opposed? Motion carries. And the next one is public hearing and rezoning case number 2209, Adrian Vega from Dahl Robinson Associates, agents for John Ott and Mary J. Trust. 06 Trust, now it's Trust 0601 1979, request the rezoning of a 8.6 acre portion of a parcel of 10 gross acres in size from rural area 10 acre minimum to suburban homesteads 2 acre minimum. Part of the assessor's parcel number 724-04-001, located at the southeast corner of County 12th Street and the alignment of Avenue 4E in Yuma, Arizona, located in the 65, 69 decibel noise zone. Go ahead and start the PowerPoint.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting rezoning case number 22-09. The intent of the applicant is to create 5 lots for residential development. This is the zoning and vicinity map. The subject parcel, it's outlined in red, and the subject of this rezoning is the portion that is highlighted in red and cross-hatched. Parcel is accessed along the County 12th Street on the north, also known as 40th Street. The parcel is vacant, and recently the citrus trees that used to be in that location were removed and they're let out to dry. Bounded along the north is City of Yuma, and the right-of-way is totally within the City of Yuma. Parcels 3 and 4 to the northeast are zone agriculture, improved with site-built homes. Parcels 002 and 001 are in agriculture, zone agriculture. Parcel number 2 to the west is zone RA10 in ag production. Parcel number 3 to the southwest is in agriculture, zone RA10, improved with a site-built residence. Parcel 7 to the south, zone RA10 in ag. Parcel number 8 to the south is zone suburban site-built 2 acre minimum in ag. Parcel 6 and 002 to the east are improved with site-built homes, zone suburban ranch 2 acre minimum. And parcel 003 also to the east is in ag production. And as you mentioned, that portion to be rezoned is under the 65, 69 decibel noise zone. This is an aerial view before the citrus trees were taken out. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. They're proposing 5 lots, access through a cul-de-sac. I want to bring your attention to parcel A and parcel B. That dashed line that goes at an angle is how the noise zone splits those 2 parcels. Here's a block of that area. In highlighted area is the building envelope for any proposed residence uses. All the rest, they could develop it with accessory structures or ag uses. This is a view looking west along County 12th Street. Now looking southwest of the parcel from the northeast corner. Now looking southeast of the parcel from the northwest corner. Looking northeast. That's on the south, that is the location of a irrigation ditch. Staff received no comments from within the zoning area. Staff received comments from MCIS, also from Arizona Attorney General and Yuma Airport Authority, not in favor of this request. Staff received comments from Yuma Mesa Irrigation and Drainage District, just with concerns about how parcel D will be irrigated. The Planning Commission recommends approval of rezoning case number 22-09, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of approval by the board, the owner shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver and record the following disclosure statements: infrastructure, aviation, range, agricultural, and a schedule for development disclosure statements. Also, the following is scheduled for development. Number 1, within 1 year approval by the board, the owner shall apply for and obtain a grading permit from the Department of Development Services to improve the ingress-egress easement shown on submitted site plan as an access-built road in a dust-free condition. Referred to attachment standard number B, penetration and chip seal. Number 2, within 1 year of board approval, the owner shall submit certification from a licensed engineer confirming that the roadway referred as in item number 1 of the schedule for development was constructed according to standard B. And number 3, within 1 year of board approval of supervisor, the owner shall split the property by means of a land division permit in accordance with section 507 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. Number 4, within 1 year of board approval, and as part of item 3 above, the owner shall record an ingress-egress easement as depicted on submitted site plan. And item number 5, within 1 year of board approval, and prior to approval of the land division and the development of any of the parcels, all lots shall be provided with means of irrigation and access to irrigation water. The owner applicant shall submit a letter from the irrigation district to the Department of Development Services confirming that satisfactory irrigation system is installed and the individual lots will have access to irrigation water. Mr. Chairman, this concludes staff's presentation.
Right, I think everybody can see that the issue with this zoning is more the issue with the Marine Corps Air Station and the compatibility of the site with the current plans and the noise zones. So are there any questions from the board?
I have a question. Can we restrict, can we do a restriction? Is it already in place that they can't build on the part that's 65 to 69 decimals? Isn't there a restriction that requires them to not be able to build on that?
You need a permit.
And can we put it in there in this rezoning case that those two parcels cannot be
All five are.
that they can't have
Two are in the zone.
I'm looking for the map. That those two parcels can't be developed on. I mean, those two sections of the parcel can't be developed on.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Pankers,
Sure. Okay, I have another question. So go ahead.
there is no need to put that restriction. The zoning ordinance does not allow new residential development in the noise zones. They will have to obtain a variance once they are ready to proceed with building permits for the houses.
Thank you.
Which restriction, what restriction? The 65 or the 70 or 65 and 70?
60 to 69, the whole 65 to 69, that's those little section, that one section.
Yeah, wait a minute. You'll be able to answer that.
Mr. Chairman, the zoning ordinance does not allow new residential development in the 65 to 69 decibel noise zone, in the 70 to 74 decibel noise zone.
So the question of the split, that's what I'm trying to get at. The question of that line between the 65 and the 70, I think, it's really moot if you just talk about between 60 and 70, right? I mean, it is, isn't it? I mean, it's restricted, permitting.
They can't build past that dotted line.
Well, Mr. Chairman, they would have to obtain a variance to build past that dotted line.
Okay, past, you meaning to the left?
Both.
To the right of it, they'd have to get.
Any?
They can't build on either side of that dotted line without a
There you
variance.
go. On either side?
Correct.
That's what
So
I
they
said.
can't build in the building envelope area either?
If there is a variance approved by the Board of Adjustment, they will be able to build within the area that's buildable on the lot, which is the area shown in yellow highlighting.
Okay.
Now, this would be if we can get through the Attorney General's warning that he would sue,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
if we ever test that, because that's not the first time the Attorney General has made it clear that, you know, they don't like it.
Is Mr. Chair and Maggie, what would happen if they left that as a 5-acre parcel? Or what, and subdivided the others into twos? Would that make a difference?
Mr. Chairman, if parcels A and B were one parcel and they remained in agriculture, it would be exempt from zoning.
Yeah, the question, obviously,
Oh, but they couldn't build on it even then. They'd still have to get a variance even if they went in 5.
No, Mr. Chairman, if the
related to agriculture, then you know.
if the property is 5 or more contiguous commercial acres and it is used for general agricultural purposes, they would be able to build a residence on that parcel.
Got it. So they could build a residence and use
Without
the
a
rest
variance.
for farming.
Without a variance.
Without a variance, okay. But C, E, and D are all perfectly fine to be rezoned to 2-acre parcels.
Mr. Chairman, all 5 parcels are
Oh, yeah, all 5 parcels
eligible
can be, yeah.
The land use assignation on the area that is within the 65 to 69 decibel noise zone is suburban density rural density residential, which allows parcels of 2-acre minimum in size for residential uses.
This is complicated.
This is complicated.
Mr. Chairman, so basically we can approve the rezoning, but they're still gonna have to come back to us for A and B to get approval to build on those two lots.
Mr. Chairman, they will have to get a variance for all 5 parcels. And that is, those cases are heard by the Board of Adjustment.
Question. So all of this is in the 69, 65 to 69?
Everything on
65 to 70.
this area that I'm highlighting or pointing to is in the 65 to 69 decibel noise
And
zone.
the other is in the 70 and up?
70 to 74 decibel noise zone.
Which, again, the question here is not whether going through the whole process of getting variances, getting special use permits, getting all that stuff. What we, I think, as a board, have to get through is the opposition of MCAS to any type of residential development within a certain noise zone or within a certain pathway. I think that's even more critical. And I've got Antonio Martinez, he's here to, I guess, put out the position of MCAS, which will then generate another set of questions. But let's just go through that. Are there any other questions? No? Thank you, Maggie. Be ready. I am going to open it to the public, and the first one I'm going to allow to come forth, it really sounded like I could, it's Mr. Martinez, Antonio Martinez from NCAA Yuma. He asked to be able to speak, so.
Sorry, I was sitting for a while. So good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Antonio Martinez. I'm here on behalf of Colonel Dudek, Commanding Officer for Marine Corps Station Yuma. And yes, that was going to be my clarification. The entire parcel, the 10-acre parcel, is within the noise zones. Is the 65 to the 69 and the 70 to the 75. So we actually got an email from the state attorney, and they mentioned that they also are in a position of this. The Yuma County Airport is in a position of this as well. And obviously for us, we're against it as well. And the entire reason is because, we cannot, just for the safety and for the mission, we cannot allow or recommend not allowing residences within the 65 noise zones. One thing that I want to just mention about this specific parcel is that it's 1.7 miles from the main gate. So it's pretty close to the actual base. Another thing is we have pretty much all surrounding agriculture, and we follow the guidelines for the Arizona Revised Statute stating if it's for ag purposes, MCAS would be, okay with it. But in this case, as you can see all the surrounding areas, this would be something very difficult, and I think it will actually set the precedence for other land surrounding that area to actually start looking to build homes. I know they mentioned like this is only one portion of it, but I mean, once you rezone it, you can open the window to actually get the variance approved and build homes. I mean, they're already, okay, you already approved it. What was the next step? The only thing that we actually went back and looked at was the regulations that are established for this type of development. I know they mentioned the JLOP, the Joint Land Use Program or Plan that was dated sometime in 1996 that kind of like allows some of the homes to be built in 2-acre areas. But then I looked at your own Yuma County zoning ordinance on page number 7-6, and it has a table of what's allowed within the noise zones. And that actually mirrors the Arizona Revised Statute 28-8481. So the Yuma County Zone Ordinance was dated, or was adopted August 1st, 2006. The Arizona Revised Statute 28-8481 was signed on April 19th, 2004. Our Marine Corps order, which also is like a dual purpose, it has the Marine Corps order and it has the Office of the Chief of Naval Operations instruction. It's an OPNAP instruction. And that just got updated here in April of 22. Before that, it was also strongly discouraged to get any new residential on that area. And then the regulation that got us here is dated 1996. You know what I mean? So it's outdated. So MCS Yuma basically is requesting the Board of Supervisors to deny this entire rezoning because everything is within the noise zones, and just to prevent any other applications to come through. And last note, within the noise zones, just to let you know, I have received noise complaints from those homes, although they're for ag purposes, about the F-35s now, which are louder than the Harriers. They actually go and fly. The flight path goes around this area. It comes around, and then they land on the runway, which comes right on top of the airport. I mean, the airport and the fairgrounds. So it comes to that area. So before they actually go this is the loop that they do when they fly around, and they actually hit on the truss, and it becomes louder on this side, and then it comes back down. So there's a lot of things on this area that MCS is not is not supporting. There you go. Thank you. Besides that, I mean, I think you guys see what we see as well. I just want to make sure we clarify that everything's within those noise zones, the state, and us, and then some of your local agencies like the airport as well does not concur and does not recommend approval. Any questions?
No, I don't have any. Do you have any? Thank you very much.
Restrictions. As of right now, we have no restrictions on landings and takeoffs like they do at Luke, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Luke does have restrictions on landings and takeoffs because of encroachment.
Because of encroachment reasons. And I know for us, I mean, so I look at the dates. I'm sorry to come back to this. We do have some developments on the west side of the runways, and Green Acres, one of them, and they're not from the perimeter, not from the fence, but from the runway. They're actually within 1 mile from the runway. And I mean, their homes shake. You know, I mean, you name it. They mention like going into the homes because of the loud noises. And I'm the one who gets the phone calls. And those homes were built back in the 70s before the 78 noise study. So the Van Houten study. So that's one thing that we're trying to prevent. Kind of like what you mentioned with the sidewalks and everything else. It's like, okay, we let this go, and then 10, 20 years from now, we'll be like, hey, why did we do this?
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
You have Supervisor Porches to thank for that.
Thank you.
You know, he reminds us all the time, hey, you guys, why didn't you do it then? Well, anyway, all right, so, okay, so public hearing, right? So the public, anyone in the public wants to address the board on this particular issue? No? All right, well, it goes back to the planning and zoning, it goes back to the board, and the planning and zoning commission just recommends, you have to realize that this is, the final decision gets made here. At staff recommendations also driven by a point system. They're, you know, the political implications of encroachment or whatever, it's not within their purview. I mean, they just have to go through a number system, and the number system tells them whether to recommend approval or not. So I just want you to be cognizant of the fact that there's, you know, that this is where the buck stops. And so I'm going to close the public hearing and let the buck stop here.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny rezoning of case number 2209.
Is there a second so we can get to the discussion? No second? You know, it's painful, I know, but you know, we got to make a decision. So if you're not going to deny it, you're going to have to make a motion to approve
Push on the marine
it.
base and then have it go away.
This is not requiring a supermajority vote, right? This is not, there hasn't been a number of complaints other than the ones we listened to, right?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. There's no.
All right, well then, if you're not gonna make a motion to deny,
I'll second it so we can have a discussion.
all right, well, we're in that section now. Discussion is available.
You know, one, and I think you just mentioned it, Mr. Chair, it puts us in a situation especially when staff recommends approval. To me, it's just kind of like, well,
I have an argument.
I mean, if we have ordinance, why do we still get that recommendation?
I think it's because, like I said before, they work on a number system. They have to assign certain numbers to a certain thing.
Yes.
And it turns out that they can't make a political decision, and this is going to become a sort of legal political decision.
I mean, it's a question of, it's a yes or no, basically, but,
Entity, I'm talking about entity, political entity, not political that way.
No, but I mean,
political
yeah,
entity.
it's just, but if we have something already on the books that says you can't build there,
Then why are we allowing them to build there?
All right, okay. Let me just say this. We're between a rock and a hard place here. And I'll tell you why I believe we're in between a rock and a hard place. On one side, we have the Marine Corps Air Station and the encroachment issue, which I think you can't get away from in particular situation like this where where landings are happening on top of this particular property, you can't get away from. And the other side, we have this pressure to do for a private landowner what's best for his property, which is also statute. So now we're dealing with statutes that say that people should be able to do with their property what they
want.
believe
I know.
it's best for themselves. And then on the other side, we have the Marine Corps and all that stuff, what it means, to the county in terms of its impact and in the area. And on top of that, we get the example of Luke Air Force Base, where you have limited landing hours and so forth. Because while people like to say that they like the sound of freedom, they don't like the sound of freedom on top of their homes most of the time. They like the sound of freedom in somebody else's homes, but they don't particularly like to hear, a F-35 just going over their houses. So, and that's why I call this a sort of a political subdivision decision. I shouldn't have said a political subdivision in that way, but it's very difficult. I know that the attorney that's sitting in the audience now will probably tell us, well, be careful what you do, but that's, I really mean it when I say when it gets right down to it, this is where the decision gets made. The commission recommends, and so does staff. And staff recommends based on numbers, and the commission recommends based on what they believe is best. But it's still, at the end of the day, the decision gets made here.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to address a comment that Supervisor Porteous made. Staff's criteria for our recommendations are based on compliance with the comprehensive plan. The zoning that is being requested and the density complies with the comprehensive plan, and that's why staff recommended approval. In addition to that, the next step would be to obtain, for the applicant or the property owner, to obtain a variance to be able to build homes on these proposed parcels. They may come back later and not split the property into 5 2-acre lots. They may decide to just split the property in half and build a home on
Each one,
on 5 acres each.
and use the rest for farming.
Approval of this request allows them it gives them the ability to request a variance, and that's the next step in the development of this property.
Maggie, are the owners aware of this?
Mr. Chairman, yes, they are.
So they know the process. I mean, they're gonna have to get a variance, and then obviously if they want to do just split it in half, they can do 2 homes, and they don't need to come to us for approval.
Mr. Chairman, the property owner is aware and the agent is aware of the options that they have.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Supervisor Simmons?
Just want to make a comment. I mean, we're looking at this, I'm 100% behind property owners' rights. But we've also got to look at it as right now our agricultural lifestyle is under attack due to the drought and what that's doing as far as farmlands. And now here's our number 2 economy driver, the military, and we're more or less kind of, we approve this, we're
Throwing them under the bus.
yeah. So it's
It's
Well,
tough.
it'll help the farmers, because they're not gonna use any more water.
yeah.
I guess if you look at this one, you can find many different ways to approach it. I think at the end of the day, we're really voting on whether we're going to sort of make the property owners believe that they can do something that they can really. They shouldn't if we're really looking at the future of MCAS and the future of military, and even the airport itself. I think that the idea that is sort of percolated over time, over the last 10, 20 years, is that you don't want to encroach on the military. Second, you don't want to build homes under landing strips. I mean, we're trying to move the fairgrounds out of there. And so thinking about a concept where you build more homes in that area isn't really conducive to what we thought was the plan when we first said, look, let's not do anything that sort of, and you know what, I've made decisions that are a little bit iffy there, but this one I think is pretty clear to me. So let's vote on it. There was a motion to deny the zoning. Is there a motion to approve it? Because we got to do something.
There was a second.
We have to vote on
There's a
the
second.
motion to deny.
Oh, right, sorry.
Second.
So there will be a motion to deny it, and there will be a roll call vote, because I think this is going to take a roll call vote. Hope I don't have to make the final decision.
Supervisor Pancrazzi.
Aye.
Supervisor Porches.
Aye.
Supervisor Lyons.
Aye.
Well, there you go.
Supervisor Simmons.
Aye.
Chairman Reyes.
Aye.
You should have put the chairman on the spot.
No, there's a reason why you come for a roll call. So there's a 5-0 vote. And I do want to tell those people that while we understand that their desire to do something with their property, and it is a natural desire, that what's at stake here is a lot beyond what and I think it just comes to where we're at in our development here in Yuma County and where the priorities are that essentially makes it so that we have to choose between private developers or private ownership and their rights to do things and the possible impact. And it is always a possible impact it would have to build on that landing zone and that high decibel noise. I think that decision was, it's done. What's done is done. So thank you very much, and move on to the next case, which is discussion regarding legislative issues where we discuss and we take possible action regarding state and federal legislative updates, which may include. I've been requested to take a break. We'll take a 5-minute break, hoping that CSA people don't leave, because this is what we're getting into the meat of things. So thank you very much.
doing it.
Ready? Okay, roll. Okay, everybody, we're back, and after that recess, we're going to, you have two more, well, kind of three more items, and both of the ones that we're going to discuss is regarding legislative issues, and I'm going to put them together so that we can open them both. One is discussion possible action. I already mentioned that. And the other one is discussion possible action regarding the adoption of 2023 state legislative proposals to be submitted by Yuma County for consideration at the annual County Supervisor Association Legislative Summit to be held October 5th through October 7th, 2022. And I think we'll have handouts and we'll have a PowerPoint presentation. Alejandro Figueroa is our Economic Development Legislative Liaison, so he will take this on. Alejandro?
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, members of the board. Thank you for your time today. I'll be going through the legislative update. So having no further state updates to share with you today after Mr. Sullivan's great presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind Yuma County residents that Arizona's primary elections are set to take place tomorrow, Tuesday, August the 2nd. If anyone has questions regarding the upcoming election, please visit the Yuma County's Recorder's Office at their new location or on their website.
The new location is at the end of this area here, on First Street in the corner, where all Hofstadt's used to be. Okay, just to clear out a little bit, some people may still not know we moved them from the building in front of us to the building to our left, or at the end of the street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, on the federal side of things, with bipartisan support on both chambers, last week Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act that includes $52 billion in subsidies and incentives to develop semiconductor manufacturing capacity in the U.S. and $2 billion for the U.S. Department of Defense research and development. Moving on, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, has authorized U.S. Customs and Border Protection to execute the Yuma Morelos Dam project to close 4 gaps located within an incomplete border barrier project in the U.S. Border Patrol's Yuma sector. This project addresses operational impacts as well as immediate life and safety risks and will be funded with DHS's fiscal year 2021 appropriations. DHS expects to award the contract for this project before the end of the current fiscal year, which is September the 30th. I've been asked by our county administrator to report to the board on the National Opioid Settlement. In August 2021, the Arizona Attorney General's Office announced it had conditionally signed onto a proposed $26 billion national settlement with the nation's 3 major pharmaceutical distributors, as well as Johnson & Johnson, which manufactured and marketed opioid. Arizona was among the first states to reach a statewide agreement and is set to receive the national settlement through the national settlement, $542 million over the next 18 years. Arizona's share has been determined by an agreement among the states using a formula that takes into account the impact of the crisis on the state and its population. Now, Yuma County is expected to receive 2.008% of the local government's share of the settlement. That is the 56%. The first payment that Yuma County is set to receive will be for $163,849.30, which will be split with the cities and the town that make up our county.
Who gets to decide? Who gets to decide the split? Is it based on population? Is it based on what?
It is based on population, and I don't really have access to the formula myself, but it's the 2.008 is going to be split between the county and the city. So, for example, the city of the county is going to get $108,000, and the city of San Luis will get $7,000. The city of Somerton will get $3,000. The town of Walton will get almost $1,000, and the city of Yuma will get $43,000. That's after attorney fees and costs. The money is to be spent on treatment and prevention, and the funds will be distributed to the different counties' health departments.
Yeah, I think it's a little early to go over the distribution, but I mean, I do have to thank Mr. Kirkus for pursuing me until I, acknowledged
Yeah, he did.
the email. He's not here, so yeah, I guess we can talk about him. I know he's got staff in here, but he did a good job.
Yes, you did.
Anyway, go ahead.
And that will conclude my first part of the presentation. If you have any questions, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
A little more detail on the portion that is going to be worked on to close at the Morales Dam. That it's, to me, a stopgap solution. There has to be a solution because when you close one side, it's been my experience over the last 40 years, it just moves to another location that is open. This needs to be more of a holistic approach to a problem instead of just like, closing up a section, a gap, it just moves it to another location, sometimes a worse location to end up, with a problem that just moves around. I mean, I commend Senator Kelly for working to get this gaps closed, but I would hope that Congress gets their act together and start working on some sort of solution that is longer term and that is more general in nature other than closing certain gaps while other ones remain open. So it's a little complex problem, but thank you very much for the update.
Yes, but I'm glad they're working on it.
So let's focus on the local stuff.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, Yuma County staff is currently working on 2 policy priorities to present to you for the board's review and possible adoption. Once adopted, these policy priorities would be submitted to the CSA on August 15 for them to be considered by the CSA's board during the annual policy summit to take place on from October 5 through the 7th in Tucson, Arizona. The first proposal related to Yuma County's waste tire management program is still a work in progress. Yuma County and CSA staff are currently waiting to hear back from the Arizona Department of Revenue on the state's waste tire distribution formula to be able to present a final version of the policy proposal to you during the next Board of Supervisors meeting on August 15. We're working to determine the best approach to getting Yuma County the appropriate level of funding for its waste tire management program. I would like to share with you 3 possible solutions that staff is currently looking at and ask for your guidance and feedback for it. So we have the first one, as you know, the statute that has been in place regarding new tires and the fees that will go into the waste tire program. It's either you pay 2% of the new tire, and that's a fee cap, or so the fee cap is up to $2. We obviously live in a different world, a different economy than we did 30 years ago. Nevertheless, we're not sure that increasing the cap would be a popular measure at the state legislature, as it may be seen as an increase in taxes. The second one is to change Arizona's waste tire fund distribution formula to reflect new tire sales per county, instead of going by the number of registered vehicles per county. This would potentially help us account for all the vehicles not registered in Yuma County that replace their tires at our local tire shops and end up at the county's waste tire collection site. This would include tires from out-of-state visitors as well as foreign visitors like Mexican and Canadian. It will also include federal and state government vehicles, which are currently not accounted for in the county. The downside to this approach is that smaller and lower populated counties may get impacted by it and possibly get less funding, which would definitely not help our chances of getting the full support of the CSA. But we first need to be able to look at the distribution formula to be able to determine if that would be the case or not.
Alejandro, I got a question. I believe when you go and, purchase new tires, there is a disposal fee that they charge or that store or wherever,
That's
so that money goes to the state or what's it for?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Porches, yes, those $2, most of the tires now cost more than $100, so we're thinking it's going to be $2 per tire for the most part. Those funds go to the state, and they're the ones who decide how to send it back to the counties. But they currently do that based on the number of vehicles registered within the county. So state vehicles are not registered in Yuma County, they're registered in Maricopa County. Federal vehicles, they're not registered at all. And then we do have Windsor visitors and Mexican tourists coming in and buying tires in Yuma County. but they're not registered. So that money does go out to the state, and they decide how to spend it.
It's a formula that really does not take into account circumstances. It's just a flat formula, based on the number of registered vehicles, which in counties like this, who grow by 100,000 in the winter, or who have a lot of outside tourism, in other words, who have a lot of people from outside buying tires, the money doesn't come back in the same manner as it goes out. We contribute more than we get back. But I think that one of the key elements to being able to sell this to CSA is to make sure that the impact is going to be positive to almost everyone. Otherwise, you're going to end up people resisting it. And when people resist it...
Except to Maricopa.
Yeah. So we need to do a little more research in it. But the thing that I think drives this process is the timing, right? We need to get this in. It needs to be reviewed. It needs to be digested. So just getting them up in front of CSA, for the CSA to have ready for the October the 2nd, I think, meeting isn't really necessarily that it's going to be surviving all these processes. It's just that we need to get it in, otherwise it won't even be considered. So we're looking at this one as in the process of actually finding out what the impact is going to be. Right? What's the second one?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so the Public Works Department has two different commercial clients. One of them is the group that is registered with the state. So an auto shop or a tire shop that is registered with the state will send those funds to the state. Those who are not will go to the gate and pay it $1.50 per tire. So we're charging as a county a little bit less than what the state is. So we have two different sources of income right now. The people who show up at the gate, and also need to highlight the fact that Yuma County residents have up to 5. They can drop in up to 5 tires for free every year.
That's not good. That's not working. We need to work on that ourselves.
And so I would like to also run through you the third option. So we're looking into creating a counties coalition that negotiates lower fees with crumb rubber manufacturers, CRM. It is understanding that all Arizona counties, with the exception of La Paz County, contract with CRM to dispose of their waste tires. Unfortunately, CRM charges different rates to different counties. To give you an example, Yuma County pays $5 to $10 more per ton of tires than Yavapai and Navajo counties currently do.
Why is that?
We all do contract with, we counties, they all do individual contracts with the company.
Got it.
There's no, we don't have any idea as to why they charge us different prices.
Better negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
Better negotiator.
Right. So we're thinking maybe if a larger group of counties come in together, we have a much better chance of getting a better deal.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see that going through the legislative process? I mean, I can see it going through CSA as a sort of uniting thing. We all get together, we get a better price, that kind of thing. But how do you see that going through the legislative process? I mean, the one we go through to get it to a legislative proposal. It doesn't seem to be so much a legislative proposal as a solution that can be found between, in a coalition of counties.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. That's why we're considering different options. And if the option doesn't, if that solution we have at hand doesn't really need the legislature to get involved, we can go to the CSA and kind of talk to our peers and see if they would be supportive of it, and then negotiate with this vendor.
The next one stinks, but go ahead.
Oh, yes. I'm sure that's...
Wait, don't even say that. The next one stinks, but we'll take it anyway.
2 hours and 41 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to let it go.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you'll find the draft of this policy proposal as a handout in your meeting's packet for your review, comment, and possible adoption. Yuma County staff, in collaboration with CSA staff, again, have come up with the following recommended solutions to the challenges brought upon our county and its residents by the disposal of California's human waste on Arizona's state land within Yuma County. As you'll see on the slide, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
There we go. Thank you.
So we're moving on to the next one, right?
Yes, sir.
The next one is the human waste one.
Human waste. Yes, I apologize for that. So we're right now, as mentioned in the previous meeting, the rules being enforced by ADQ require the vendors, the companies, the biosolid management companies, to disc or till the biosolids within a 10-hour time frame after being disposed. But that's only the case if their operations are within 1,000 feet of the next housing or commercial development. If not, there's really no ask of them to till or disc that biosolid. So we're trying to build stricter regulations on that. It also must be said that ADQ currently doesn't have the resources and the manpower to supervise those operations, and these entities are self-regulated, so they report to ADQ from time to time. So we're asking to shorten that time span to 2 to 5 hours instead of 10, and actually require to disc them with to 3 or 5 feet. Right now, there's no requirement as far as a depth.
Alejandro and Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
on that, that's a big problem.
Why?
There's no plow that can do that.
Dig that deep.
That deep.
Rip that deep.
Not even a ripper will do that.
No.
That's
And then
3 to 5
I mean, a
feet.
ripper will do it, but it's a
But
single.
it's only just cutting it.
Yeah.
A plow can go, it's from 12 to 18 inches. And that's 18 inches, you're talking a big tractor.
And look,
Then let's do 18 inches.
and the problem isn't necessarily how deep you inject it, because injecting is different than throwing it in. It's that they really technically just turn it over and leave it on top,
That's
which
right.
is what we should be requiring is that all biosolids be placed underground so that there's actually nothing exposed. If it's 12 inches or 18 inches, it wouldn't make any difference as long as it was all covered. The problem is you can tell right there that they just turn it over to mix it into the ground. It doesn't, it doesn't go under. It just
Well,
turn it. You
And
turn
it's
it.
all sandy soil that they're doing it on, so it's not
Look,
doing
I think that the
anything.
best way we can do this is probably just to see if over the county support the process of having this be a little more under the control of the counties as opposed to ADEQ. ADEQ doesn't care, really. I mean, they're like staff, right? They have a certain, staff meaning planning and zoning staff. They have a certain number of things that they have to meet. They can't just simply say no to someone that meets them. If they meet the requirements, what are you gonna do? Tell them no because we don't like you? Or no, because people in Yuma County don't like it? No. So what we probably should be searching for is the authority to regulate, monitor this thing on our own, and that it be given to us as a way to solve this issue, whether we don't even have the authority to stop it from happening, which is probably what we should do. The fact is that this used to be in a remote area of Yuma County.
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
Okay, not anymore. There are date palm trees next to them. There are landfill schools. This is just growth. People are, there's more growth coming around them, and what used to be more or less, I guess, acceptable in some ways, it just isn't acceptable anymore. It's pretty much, you get into a point now where it's becoming a problem of humans dealing with it, not of animals or not of plants or anything. It's humans now dealing with it. It's flies, it's salmonella, it's those risks that if we don't handle them, E. coli, that if we don't handle, we end up in a liability issue now. We're getting to that point now where it becomes a liability issue that the county has to deal with, but has no tools to deal with. We really have no tools to deal with it. I mean, they get those permits renewed for a few years, and when they came back for renewal, we can holler and scream, but we don't have any particular authority. And I think that that's what we're looking at. It's a permissive type situation where we're asking other counties to support the county, because what is happening in our backyards now could eventually happen in theirs. And the fact is, we're a border county with Mexico, so we have problems. We are a border county with California, so we have problems. And I'm sure that we're not going to be the only ones having this problem, because those type of things move from place to place. So if there isn't a logical legislative solution that applies to the whole state, then it really does not work, because what we do is move the problem from one county to another. And that's not what we want. We want to.
My thing is taking care of our own waste.
I can't do that. I know.
Taking care of
I had a quick
California
question,
is
and this may be more towards Craig, just a question. Are the other And not necessarily
Look,
the refuge, but I mean, ADEQ is shorthanded. Are other counties having issues as far as just, not with this, but anything ADEQ related where, because they can't get people to come out? If it's not Maricopa or Pima County, everybody else seems to fall on a lower priority to deal with issues. You know, is it something to give the counties a little more authority to deal with ADQ issues?
Okay, I can answer that a little bit, and I think Craig can answer that a little bit. There are things that the state ADQ is leaving for the counties to do. You know, they're basically assigning counties, okay, they're saying, well, you handle this on our behalf type of thing. So it's already happening. It's just that this particular one isn't one of them.
Within the state ADEQ rules and regulations, we do have delegation agreements with ADEQ to do enforcement for them. ADEQ has come down and looked at this property and found them compliant with their operations.
Sure.
yeah, but they come down on a planned trip.
No.
Not always.
No.
Oh, good.
I had them come down twice this
Oh,
last year.
good, thank you. Okay.
All right, guys, we got to get this thing.
Sure.
finish the process.
And so if the reason to change the regulation and the rule is that it gives criteria to what is being enforced. Right now, in my opinion, it's vague in what that operation is and what it should represent. If we just take over a delegation agreement for this function with ADEQ, we're going to get a similar response because the rule is the same that we're enforcing.
Yeah. I think, Craig, that what we're doing here is we're basically making a statement that's basically saying we have biosolids being brought in from California into Arizona, into our county, without us having anything to say about it, and we'd like that to stop. And we'd like to be able to prevent that from happening to any other county. I think that should be the focus that we give to this particular piece of proposed legislative relief, not simply to get them to tell us that we can do it. Because what happens is once the rules are rules, then the rules have to be followed. You can't say no to someone that meets the requirements.
That's
You have to
right.
be able to say no to someone because of other reasons, encroachment being one of them, for example. And so it's just, well, I don't know what the right expression is, but it's disgusting that all we can do is watch and order studies being made and have been told that, you know, you have salmonella problems, and I've been told you have fly problems, and I've been told, you know, you're growing dates next to organic dates. Well, I don't know about the organic part, but I know what anybody would think if they knew that, whatever.
That flies
You know,
on an egg.
so let me finish, okay?
I'm
So
sorry.
what we were looking for is legislative relief for the whole state that allows us to say, simply us to say no to having biosolids brought in from California, creating these problems for us. It's not us getting assigned by ADQ to actually enforce them, because we're going to have to enforce them. And it's not a situation that gets to a point where, you know, we just want transfer of enforcement authority. What we want is be able to deny this kind of permits. We want to be able to make a decision that basically protects our residents, our constituents, from something like this happening in their backyard. And I think what we need to do is pursue this issue as, look, it's happening here, but it could happen anywhere, because the state of Arizona regulations apply everywhere in the state. It's just that this is the closest they found and the easiest path for them to do that. And they've been doing this for years. I've been around for a while, and they've been doing this for years. And every time we have a study made and the study determines there's a risk of salmonella, there's a risk of all these things, and they suggest methods to fix the problem, we can't fix it. We don't have the authority to fix the problem. And the way to fix the problem is to not simply have it. And that's really, you know, we're getting into agricultural stuff now. So, and you know, that's the lifeblood in Yuma County. So it's going to get a little difficult here. So what we want is the other counties to realize that what's happening in Vicarret can happen in theirs at any time, because the rules are the same throughout the state of Arizona. And we can't make it any harder than it is right now, because we don't have the authority to do so. So what we're asking is for the authority to be able to have some sort of impact in the process.
Correct.
Okay. Alejandro?
Mr. Chairman, well, that's
Well done, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Mhm. That was good. Sorry for all the input.
So, just for clarification purposes, for staff to redraft this proposal, should we seek to change the rules so that we can at some point enforce them?
we're trying to, yeah, control. It's about local control. I think at the end of the day, that's the way you're gonna get the other counties to follow suit. I mean, because what you're asking is permissive. You're asking whether can you control this process instead of ADQ, because it's happening in your land. And it's going to be a little difficult because ADQ, I don't think likes to relinquish the authority. So it's going to be a legislative thing that we're gonna have to have the support of the rest of the counties and then line up the support of our local representatives, which represent agriculture a lot. So it's going to be, it's not an easy task, but we're not going to get too far if we don't convince the rest of the counties to get behind it, at least to put it in front of our legislators. But what we want is authority. Not necessarily, I wouldn't call it control that way, because I don't think that applies really that well. I mean, that doesn't apply as well. Just simply the authority to be able to deal with this issue,
To control the amount, because obviously the amounts have changed in the past years of how much, the amount that's been coming here from California. And that, the state is the one that approves that.
I hate to be say it that way, but we'd like the authority to send it back to California.
Well,
it's just gonna be tough. But at least we're taking a proposal that I think some counties may be able to see as beneficial to them eventually. Essentially, this could happen anywhere. And what we like to say is, look, we don't even know if it's already happening somewhere else. We just, I think La Paz is having the same issue. So we may be able to convince the bigger counties, that it isn't detrimental to their agriculture. It's just detrimental to the lifestyle of people that are, getting impacted by this. So, I think this one has probably a better chance than the tire one. The tire one is going to be a little dicey. I think the tire one, we have some tools that we need to use to deal with that. Some fees changes, some structure. I think the fact that we charge less invites people to use the county instead of using whatever means. And then we have this other situation where people are dumping tires in the desert because they already think they're paying too much. So they pay the tire distributor where they buy it, and then they sometimes don't, they don't get rid of it. Or we have all these tire shops that are bringing them from outside and don't know what to do with them, so they take them and pay $150, and then we end up dealing with it. 150 doesn't yet cover it. Maybe if we made it so that people would think twice about it, again, this is a complicated issue because it's not that simple. But the tire issue may be better to address if it didn't impact anyone negatively. If it does, then we're going to have a tough time bringing in some of the smaller counties. And it may be that what we want is a permissive type of legislation that allows us to deal with the problem, which we may already be able to. Just we have to take a deeper look at it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. Members of the board, thank you for your time. That's my presentation for today.
All right. We'll get something in front of you guys by August 15th. You guys mean CSA. I didn't mean to you guys like that, but we'll get something in front of the Legislative Affairs Committee there. Anything else on this? Any questions? If not, then I'll move on to the last portion of the agenda, which is the, you have 4 minutes. The last portion of the agenda is for events calendar and current event. Board members and county administrator will report on events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county, may present a brief summary of current events, and may update the schedule for future board supervisor meetings. Appropriate, no legal action will be taken. Let's not talk about vacation.
We're
Okay?
not.
It's not covering it. Okay, so now, who's going to start? Supervisor,
I'll be
Vice
real
President?
quick. PM10 meeting, NACO annual conference, and the YMPO meeting. That was
How did you guys get to vote in the NACO annual conference?
the NACO conference.
In Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's why I'm wearing a mask.
Oh, you were told to? What?
No, I got COVID from.
You shouldn't have said that. Now we're all gonna run out,
I
get
know.
tested. So anyway, thank you. How about you?
Um,
No stories about San Diego or anything like
No,
that?
wasn't in San Diego.
Well, you have like 150,000 flyer miles. I saw that. So, don't start bragging about it.
Yeah, since like 1992.
Oh, that's the cumulative one. I have more than you then.
Couple meetings with Senator Kelly on the telephone regarding the border staff from Kelly's office, and then 4 of our federal representatives, and then probably 10 different constituents on different concerns that they have in the county. One more call on the flies. So I'm glad we're talking about that again, and several additional meetings. I won't go into all the details today.
All right. I promise I won't go into details of Hawaii.
Okay.
Supervisor Simmons.
Al area most of the time dealt with different things over the phone, calls from people with issues.
Right.
NACO, how was it, attended NACO in Colorado, Adams County? I didn't get COVID.
Around me, yeah.
Okay, I was on vacation. Go ahead.
Arizona City County Managers Association Semi-Annual Conference. Met with staff from AWC, multiple meetings with Human Resources here about the vacant Deputy County Administrator position. Met with Precinct 1 Constable John Nozar about his upcoming retirement. Had the monthly Arizona at Work meeting. Met with Acting City Administrator Jay Simonton. Various meetings with the 19 direct reports. And I was going to remind you of the special session this Thursday, however, just received notice that we need to cancel the meeting scheduled for Thursday as well as the subsequent one on August 29th due to engineers not being available. So we'll get those rescheduled and give you notice. So no meeting this Thursday.
Okay.
You hear that? Well, you let us know when you're ready, and we'll be ready when you're ready. I mean, obviously, those people in the Tacna area have been waiting for a long time. I'm supposed, after listening to the size of those projects, or the size of that project, I mean, that's not going to be a quick and done type of project. It's going to take some time. So let's do it right and not, go back and redo it. We have to. All right. Anything else? If nothing else, then I'd like to thank everybody. We got 1 minute left before noon. So, you guys can get on the road, eat something, get on the road. Thank you very much for coming over. Alejandro, thank you for your report. I didn't get a chance. And I thank everyone for just keeping everything going in the summer. It's kind of a slow time, but it's still busy time. So thank you very much. Ian, I've heard nothing but good things. I'm expecting the other shoe to drop, but we'll wait till then. So thank you very much. And everybody, we didn't get an introduction to the new representative from the county attorney's office.
Hi, Chairman Reyes. We've met several times, I think.
The age, it's old age.
Minda Davey. I'm a deputy county attorney. I joined, it'll be 2 years in November.
Wow, just, leaving you alone is a new one for me.
Right. Ed Feely retired officially from our office, and I've taken over the.
I thought he was like 20.
I'm sorry?
I thought he was 20 or 25 or something. He looked like, he was like very young.
Left alone. There's Tony.
What?
She didn't get left alone. She just finally got rid of John where we could get something done.
I'm sure he's not going to like that. But anyway, thanks. Anyway, on the record, thank you very much. And everybody, thank you. And we'll see you soon, all right?